day just to show intrepid's the name. Breaking mold, daring stand, brash ideas in hand. Old norms fade away, new paths in the sand. They say blaze through fire, intrepid we admire. Voices now reach higher, intrepid's our desire. Critics come with a shout, opinions thrown about. Through the storm they steer, success leaves no doubt. Stories told far wide, tales of their brave new tide. With every step stride, fame and glory to guide. No more shadows cast, they've arrived at last. Everyone takes note, their fame rising fast. They say blaze through fire, intrepid we admire. Voices now reach higher, intrepid's our desire. They say blaze through fire, intrepid we admire. Voices now reach higher, intrepid's our desire. Critics come with a shout, opinions thrown about. Through the storm they steer, success leaves no doubt. Stories told far wide, tales of their brave new tide. With every step stride, fame and glory to guide. No more shadows cast, they've arrived at last. Through the storm they steer, success leaves no doubt. Stories told far wide, tales of their brave new tide. With every step stride, fame and glory to guide. No more shadows cast, they've arrived at last. Everyone takes note, their fame rising fast, fast. Stories told far wide, tales of their brave new tide. With every step stride, fame and glory. In the land of air, beneath the moonlit sky, a caravan left Winstead, grit in their eye. Wagons full of goods, dreams bound for Mirrorleth, but shadows lurked in silence, bringing the test of death. The horses' hooves were steady on the worn-out trail, through valleys deep and wide, past the silver veil. Bandits in the night, with greed and foul intent, turned the peaceful journey into swift lament. Run, caravan, the bandits close behind. From Winstead till Mirrorleth, there's no peace to find. Hold tight to your dream,
Hey y'all, what's going on, Roar? Thanks for stopping in, man. I always enjoy hanging out with you. Whenever you stop into my streams, you always have clever things to say. Happy Juneteenth for everybody who's off today. I'm getting to celebrate that pretty cool holiday. I guess it's like the official ending of slavery, and the day that the slaves were freed in Texas or something like that. That's a pretty cool holiday. So happy Juneteenth, everybody celebrating. I wanted to talk a little bit about raiding in Ashes of Creation. I know it's been something we've talked about some on the stream the last few weeks, but I want to get a little more in depth on it. Not off, but getting that holiday pay. Woo! Yeah, there you go, Thruck. There you go. Copium Clinic, Dr. Burns hanging out. Vex is in. Vex, the streams are going to be consistent from now on. It's time. It's officially time. Not only are the streams going to be consistent, but I'm working on videos. I have several in the production pipeline right now. Videos are going to start coming out pretty regularly. It's time. It's simple as that. I've been waiting for it to be time. I know a lot of people have told me that I'm going to miss out on being or likely going to miss out on being in the content creator program because I haven't been consistent, because I've been sitting back and just waiting basically. And truth is, I'm fine with that, because for a long time it just wasn't worth the amount of effort. I mean, you spend 35 hours on a video in Ashes of Creation, and really think about it. That's 35 hours of actually work. That's not counting the late nights staying up in my bed trying to sleep, but all I can think about is what I would say if I made this particular video or that particular video, and then you release it and 740 people watch it, and you get no subs from it because those 740 people are already subbed to your channel probably, or the type that will never will, So it's like, it wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it. But we're finally there. Copia, yeah, Burns knows everything I'm talking about. So yeah, everybody who's currently making content right now, shit, good on you, man. Good on you, because it's especially if you've been doing it for like the last year. Like, we knew we were coming to this, but man, it was tough. It was tough, and I put myself in a position where I decided I'm only going to make content if I have something to say. So like when I addressed the Jalon and Narc drama as an example, and then whenever I started talking about class balance, because I actually had something to say about class balance. And a lot of people are making what they call thin air content, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to say anything about people who are making the thin air content, because, hey man, have at you. I couldn't even do it. So congratulations to you for being able to do it. But I think that now we're in that area where even thin air content is not quite so thin air, because it's relevant, and it's going to be very relevant very soon, as opposed to, dude, that's 9 months away. It's at least 9 months away before we know if your idea of class balance is real, or if it'll work. So anyways, I want to talk about rating today. Levi says, Intrepid, you don't make it, fine. I will just outwork your content creators. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to outwork some of those guys. Some of those people, Jamie in particular, man. Jamie's a beast. Like, that dude just don't stop. He just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. If he's not at work, he's working on content creation or networking for content creation or whatever. That dude's a beast. So I don't think I'm outworking some of those guys. But I hope to be able to bring a perspective that other people can't bring. That would be the hallmark of my channel, and that's kind of where I plan on hanging my hat. Gola says, why say something substantive when you can just bang your head against the wall speculating about how AOC could end up being? Yes. Like, I could have not sat around and thought about these systems and how they might play out and challenging my own assumptions and all of that stuff. I could have done that and just talked out of my ass about stuff for the last 3 years, but I didn't do that. I've been a lot more intentional about it on purpose. So yeah. Copium Clinic. Dr. Burns says Intrepid has been intentionally lessening the hype. Gonna blow up soon. You think they've been intentionally lessening the hype? Other than them saying, hey, Alpha 2 is going to be a testing phase. Don't expect Alpha 2 to be a game for you to play. Other than that, I don't think they've been lessening the hype, except for this stream that's coming up. Like I would describe for you guys what the topic of the stream is, but like I might fall asleep while I'm describing it to you. So yeah, in that way, I guess you could say. Yeah. So, any of you guys ever seen Moonman OFC? Any of you guys know who that is? Been making a lot of Ashes content lately. Getting thousands and thousands of views on all his vids. Doesn't have very many subscribers. But people are absolutely watching what he's putting out. So, he has a video that he has entitled Rating is Going to Be Amazing in Ashes of Creation or something like that. Yeah, exactly, Golid. So I don't see how rating is going to be amazing in Ashes of Creation. I think it's going to be kind of by the book, by the numbers. Zergfest, if you have enough numbers to kill the boss and hold off the enemies, then you win kind of thing. There's not a whole lot of like technical challenge to them. But let's see what Moonman OFC has to say, because yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's the right one. All right. Rating, they're just loot pinatas. Exactly. I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but that might be the case. So, let's see. I guess I need to bring this back, move this over here, and then I need to move my stupid face over here. There we go. I thought they were going to have the raid bosses adapt to the raid or something. I forgot the exact details. Vex, you are exactly correct. They are... man, he talked about this technology 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Like, it's been a long time. So you got to think that technology has come a long way in that time, especially with AI. But he was talking about how the bosses would react to boss. So, for example, if the boss was really intended for like 40 people, but you showed up with 80, then it would start using abilities with these massive, unavoidable AoE abilities, basically, so that everybody's getting clipped with massive damage and bring the numbers back down to a number that's closer to what is supposed to be in the boss. Or, for example, if you brought a really elite, like really badass team that has really high level DPS, and it sees that you're DPSing it down way too fast, it would start spawning a bunch of ads that have to be taken care of to force you to peel your DPS off the boss and go deal with that, so that you couldn't just overwhelm it with like just lots of really talented players. I think that's the two examples they use. I imagine there would be, if you brought really high level healers or what, there different things like that to make it adapt. But I don't know that. He hadn't said a word about that since then. That was a long time ago he talked about that. Thrux says, yeah, how fast you can beat the first boss is going to adjust how hard the later bosses are. There's that too. Did he talk about that in a recent AMA? I don't think I saw it. Burns said my audio's clipping. Is it clipping like constantly or just did it happen at one time? For you. I don't want my audio to be clipping. That's bad. Frequently. Well, that's strange. I honestly wouldn't even know why. Mic is on correctly. Better now? Okay, maybe it was Twitch. Okay. All right, so this is Moonman OFC, if I remember correctly. Yep, yep, Moonman OFC. So if you guys like what you hear from Moonman, go over there and subscribe to him. He doesn't have, I think he's got less than 200 subscribers, but he's got a whole bunch of videos that have 2, 3, 4,000 views. So he's getting views. Talking about Ashes of Creation.
Howdy everyone, my name is Moonman, and today we're going to be discussing raids and Ashes of Creation. We're going to go through raid design, design philosophy, raid sizes and compositions, location, adaptive raid difficulty, and finally covering the looting system that will apply in raids, including the loot tagging system. Some of this information is similar to Dungeons, and I just did a video on that last week, so if you're interested, definitely give that a watch. I really just started this channel a couple weeks ago, and we'll be releasing a video on naval content next week. If you enjoy the content, smash that like button and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I appreciate all of you that have subscribed thus far. Let's begin with raid design and design philosophy. Similar to Dungeons,
He's a little loud. I can turn it down a little bit.
most raids will be open world, and the minority of raids.
Well, okay, so right off the bat, he's really laid out what he plans on telling us about raiding in Ashes of Creation. I'm impressed with that. So let's see what he says here.
Will be instanced. Unlike Dungeons, we don't have an exact percentage split as far as how many open world raids versus instance raids. That might be an 80-20 split, similar to Dungeons, or potentially even a 90-10 split. That said, some raid boss rooms will be instanced, but it sounds like this will be limited to large encounters for the most part. There are both raid bosses and world bosses, and I see a raid boss as something your raid has to clear trash to get to. There are likely multiple raid bosses within the raid, whereas a world boss is a singular boss, maybe has some trash, but is potentially more accessible.
So wasn't Steven asked about rooms locking, getting locked in a room for the bosses? I feel like he was asked about that, and I don't remember what his specific answers. I need to go back and rewatch that recent AMA he did. I think that I was like half asleep during it or something, because people bring up questions from that all the time that I'm like, I don't remember how that went.
With so many raids being open world, it begs the question as to how lockouts will work, and if we'll be able to repeatedly do raids and effectively farm the same raid over and over. Luckily, we have a little bit of information around this, but not quite the full picture. Raids will trigger either off of events happening in the world or using traditional systems. The team has not yet made a final decision on this. That means a raid could spawn when a story arc reaches a certain point in the story, or a node reaches a certain level of influence. For anyone that doesn't understand story arcs or node influence, the quick overview is that story arcs are effectively longer quest lines that open up as a result of player activity. That could mean players finishing out various quests, or maybe even over farming an area, or even a story arc specific to your personal or class-based activity. Story arcs are influenced by world activity and can drive changes to the world. And one of those changes could be spawning raid content. Node influence and node...
It's pretty cool that he explained in a pretty simple way how story arcs are going to work and how nodes are going to work. I still think that people are massively, and I mean massively, underestimating how much the node system is going to change the way we play MMOs. No one's ever played one like this, and so it's something totally different, and we can all speculate on how that might play out, but I imagine there are gonna be things that none of us can even predict that are gonna be so different.
Progression are also driven by player activity, where players can progress a node and effectively level up a node to create a larger city or town. Nodes can progress to the point of being a large metropolis. In other words, nodes or town areas can be leveled up and progressed through player action. That could be dedicating resources to the node or completing a multitude of quests for the node through the bulletin board system, and so on. An important aspect is how story arcs and node progression are combined, because certain story arcs can't open up until a node progresses to a certain point. Now that that is out of the way, let's get into the really interesting things about raids. Oh, and I forgot just one thing, just a quick word from our sponsor for today. Go ahead and cue that clip.
Are you waiting for a game that may seemingly never come out? Is the copium so strong that you occasionally lose consciousness? Don't you worry. Moonman's Moon Pills are here to save you. These uniquely designed pills will put you into a slumber and wake you up the moment Ashes of Creation is released. Skip the wait and order your moon pills today.
Disclaimer, this is just a joke. Don't take sketchy pills from strangers. There will be about
Okay, that was an interesting little commercial he had there. Lode Lloyd, yo, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping in. Girls Fisting Guys is still a name that exists on YouTube. You think this guy matched his shirt to the light on purpose? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? The part he mentions about how some things like raid existence affected by node levels. Yes, that's I feel like I never get to stop harping on that. Like, so many people don't realize that. What a big effect that's going to have on the world. In World of Warcraft, if you want to do a raid, you just go do it. Any raid you want to do, they're all available. You just go do them. And in Ashes of Creation, that raid may not exist on your server. It may never. Like, there's going to be quest lines that only one server ever sees, because that area gets leveled up high and it becomes dominant and nobody ever knocks it down or whatever. And so only a few people on Earth ever did them. Like, that's just wild to think about. I came into Don't Trust Sketchy Pills. Well, there you go. Don't trust sketchy pills. For those new who just jumped in, this is Moonman OFC. He's a new Ashes creator. He's put out several videos recently, and he's got lots and lots of views. So if you guys want to go over there and subscribe to him, you can. This video is all about how raiding is going to be amazing in Ashes of Creation.
about 12 to 15 raid bosses in the world initially. Legendary equipment will drop, but only from legendary world bosses. This might be a mistake on the wiki, because I have to imagine there are legendary raid bosses as well, but who knows. All I care is that we can get those sweet Garfields and Kennys. Oranges, guys. If those references weren't obvious, you might be in the wrong place. No more Professor Plums for these gamers, though legendaries are going to be extremely rare, it seems like. I mean, the team plans on only a single-digit percentage of the population being able to complete certain portions of the content, and considering that legendary is...
Hey, Wolfheart, what's going on, brother? Yeah, let's talk rating. I'm gonna put his name in. I'll put a link in here in a little while straight to his channel, but that's his channel's name there for any of you guys who want to go check him out. Mr. Noobtastic says I like his style so far. Okay, there you go.
Probably the highest tier of difficulty. If you see someone running around with a legendary item, they are the sweatiest of sweat lords, and you probably shouldn't envy them because they have no life. Of course, I plan on getting a legendary if that tells you anything about me. Anywho, raids are going to have a ton of mechanics, and because PvP could be prevalent during various raid bosses, you can coordinate your group to utilize boss mechanics against other groups. That's right, you won't always be in a 40 vs 1 fight against a raid boss. There could be another raid group there, and you could need to strategize to wipe that raid group and eliminate the competition. In terms of raid mechanics, there will be multiple phase fights, adds, additional monsters that join the fight during a phase or periodically, random skill usage, whether that's breathing fire, shooting random projectiles, and so on, and as a result, your raid will need to strategize around your location and mobility. Something that is really cool about raid bosses is that their mechanics may be affected by changes in climate or even time of day. So if it's the middle of winter...
Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Wizzy, I just noticed you hopped in. Hey, how you doing? Wizzy, this is a new Ashes of Creation content creator. His name is Moonman OFC. Thousands and thousands of views on bunch of his videos, even though he has less than 200 subscribers. So he's doing a good job, and he's talking about rating, which has always been, one of my main things. So I thought I'd highlight him and tell all you guys go subscribe to him if you haven't already. So some of the things I'm seeing here that might help with my complaints that I have about just in general PvX games or games that try to blend PvP and PvE, and rating is, I've said it before, rating just sucks in those games. Rating is not good in Lineage 2. It's not good in Well, I don't think it's good in ESO, but that's not really the point. It wasn't good in Arcade. None of those games had like fun, compelling, truly difficult boss fights. Like they're just loot pinatas, as somebody pointed out earlier. But if you start saying that the skill usage is going to be random, because you have to think about like World of Warcraft and ESO, Sports One, a lot of these games, they're like on, they do this and then they do this and then they do this, and it's very like regimented, and you know what's coming next, or you should know what's coming next. Where if it's truly random, then yeah, you're it's more skill based than memorization based, and then boss changes may be affected. Boss mechanics may be affected by changes in climate or time of day. You can't like practice a boss and have a boss down to an absolute T and be able to just do it in your sleep if the time of day is going to change little details about it. And then telegraphed animations, but no obvious telegraph templates on the ground, which can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But that's definitely makes it more difficult, no doubt about it, if there's not like an actual like, here's big red circle, dummy, don't stand in big red circle. Hill Station says, that's my boy. You're friends with this guy, Hill Station? A lot of people are complaining about the difficulty of open world PvX with the threat of XP debt. I don't feel like XP debt's going to be a big deal. I know a lot of people are real upset about that, but like I played Dark Age of Camelot. Dark Age of Camelot wasn't even a PvX game. Like in the PvE side of the world where you run around and just kill random things and no threat of being killed by another player, if you died, you incurred a little bit of PvX debt or PvE debt, experience debt, whatever you call it. And so you just go and kill a few things, and maybe 10 or 20 things, and you'd be back to where you started, and then you keep going. Like it wasn't a big deal. I don't understand why people are so upset about XP debt. Boss mechanics, AI will be huge to get right. Yes, it will be very huge to get right. You are correct. But it can be done, I think. I think it can be done. Big red circle is my lane. I'm sure it is, Wizzy. Hill Station says, yeah, he's a guildie. Okay, awesome, man. What guild are y'all from? Ludesoys is because they haven't experienced it in like 20 years, so no one understands XP that fair. Old man Zillin on a soapbox here. I got you.
Winter, the boss may have different mechanics than if it was in the spring, or if it's the middle of day versus the middle of night. Lastly, raid bosses will have telegraphed animations. What that means is that the boss will do some sort of animation to indicate that they are about to use an ability. Even though the boss will telegraph that they are going to use an ability, there will be no indicators showing where the ability is going to hit necessarily. In other words, there won't be any templates on the ground showing what's about to happen. I personally love this, and it takes me back to how raids should be. You have to do the boss enough time.
As he's talking about how there won't be telegraphs on the ground to tell you where to go.
I personally love this, and it takes me back to how raids should
Massive telegraph on the ground telling Steven, hey, you better get out of that. Literally as he's saying it.
be. You have to do the boss enough times to know what animations are indicating which ability, and then position yourself accordingly or utilize abilities accordingly. That said, the team has said that there will be variables that change elements of the raid, such as type.
God, I know Steven is just showing people what the game looks like and stuff, but it drives me crazy, him running around and not using abilities. His team's trying to kill a freaking boss, and he's just like, hey, look over there, there's a pretty rock over there. And I'm like, Steven, shoot an ability at the boss. Vex says, I never like the telegraph circles on the ground. I like telegraphed animations more than circles. There you go. XP debt will be the tough thing to balance and making not too bad for raiding while discouraging open world ganking. Yeah. I've been a little bit concerned about so like in World of Warcraft or Star Wars The Old Republic, I guess ESO has this problem too. Because in ESO, people on competing sides are the exact same classes with the exact same abilities, so they all look the same. So you don't know if the like let's use the big crystal ball, not crystal, but the magic ball lightning ability. It looks the same whether your side uses it or their side uses it. So the one that's coming to you, is that yours or your enemies? How do you know? And that from that perspective is where I see a lot of problems, especially with PvP. 0 telegraphs confirmed, as he said. Maybe he doesn't know what telegraphs are. Heal Station said Ethereum. Okay, cool, man. He's doing a good job here with his video. I noticed he's getting a lot of views with his channel here. So he's doing good. The purple circle thing should be a lighting effect that gets brighter as the flame comes closer to the ground. I asked that question. Margaret asked Steven that in the last stream. You know, I vaguely remember that question being asked, but I don't remember I feel like the answer was word salad that didn't actually give me a real definitive answer on how they're going to deal with that. WoW these days adds a tinge of red to the effect if it's an enemy effect. And Burn says they're not doing anything about it right now. Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't remember there being this is the answer to that question. I feel like that's going to be a problem. If there's 60 mages on the battlefield and everybody's using ball lightning, how the hell are you supposed to know whose is whose? Still no notification of stream. Man, I don't know, Triple Play. I don't know. Dodge everything, nerd. I mean, okay, then melee DPS is literally just doing this. You never stop. You're out of context. God, it would suck so bad if you just had to avoid every last possible thing. You just gave me a heart attack, man. Please stop that. It was a big problem in New World. Okay, there you go. All right, let's watch a little more of this.
Types and number of bosses, their skills, and so on. Raids and Ashes of Creation are meant to be 40-person raids and will have various elements that can be pre-planned, but not everything can be pre-planned. Meaning you can plan out your raid composition and raid positioning, but as I just mentioned, there will be variables that causes changes to the types of bosses and their skills. So just because you did the same boss weeks ago, it may be an entirely different encounter when you come back. As far as raid composition, obviously we won't...
I mean, that's pretty cool. And definitely if that was the case for an entire dungeon, like, depending on the nodes, the levels of the nodes in the area, the story arcs that are currently active, and where those story arcs are in their arc, the time of day, the season, the entire dungeon could have just totally different bosses than it did the last time you went in there. That at least starts to get to a system where it's random enough that you can't just sleepwalk through it. You actually have to be paying attention to the mechanics as they go along. I don't hate that. It's more reaction based than memorization based, which I mean leans more towards the PvP side of the game, because PvP side is more reaction based. Use a tank clear wall. The ally abilities pass through, not the enemies. I mean, that's not a bad idea. That's a strategy, I guess, to affect that. That reminds me back in Dark Age of Camelot when certain abilities had massive advantages over the other realms' abilities, and everybody just, when you complained about it on the forums, everybody just screamed use tactics. That was the standard response. You need to get good to know which ball belongs to whom. Can you imagine, as a fighter, trying to keep track of who launched which of the 17 lightning balls that are coming at you right at this second? Oh my God. Larago 18, first time chatter. Thanks for stopping in, man. Maybe have a setting to change opacity of friendly spells to be kind of ghostly and enemies full opacity. That's not a bad idea. There are numerous solutions. I'm not saying this is one of those things that doesn't have a solution. I'm saying they haven't told us what the solution is going to be, or if they're going to offer us one. Luloy says, I love reaction-based gameplay. Yeah. And the only problem that I have with reaction-based gameplay, and I'm going to get off my lawn, the MMO genre is aging. I'm about to be 44 years old. And definitely about 38 to 40 years old, I noticed a sizable dip in my reaction speed. Like, it's definitely not what it used to be. And I know a lot of people are in that same area, that same boat that I'm in, that sinking ship that I'm in. And it's like, do you really want to design a game that is using old school mechanics, so is even more going to appeal to the older side of the current MMO genre, and then be like, and let's make it based on your reaction speed? But I agree, reaction-based gameplay is definitely more dynamic and more fun over a long term than memorization-based gameplay. Nice brought up a good point about the tank turning a boss towards enemy PvPers that come in to steal your boss. Yes. Yep. Now that's going to be classic. Not classic. What's the right? Like standard operating procedure whenever you're fighting a boss, for sure. Strats like that open a lot of fun possibilities. Yeah, it does. I think the AI should have aggro mechanics built in where when a new opponent joins the fight to say gank someone mid-battle, it goes after them in anger. Then, as you notice, the aggro assists the mob to kill the ganker before getting back to fighting the mob. Yeah, like the mob gets mad that you like interfered in the fight that it had or something. Especially if you had, that could be a mechanic that was on raid bosses that are like known for things like honor or valor or whatever. Like that's the you don't interfere when I'm engaged in a battle of strength one-on-one with somebody or something like that. I could see that. That's not a bad idea. Vex says, I'm 35 in the same way now. Stop playing for FPS because of it. LOL. Yeah. Yep. I definitely noticed a pretty sharp decline. Somewhere between 38 and 40. I'm sure it's one of those things where it was happening very slowly over time, and then one day it got bad enough that I realized it. Oh my God, it's way worse than I thought it was. It happens. Dr. Burns says reaction time slowly goes down, but executive functioning increases for a long time. I have ADHD, which is an executive function problem, so I don't think I'm going to have any executive function increases, Mr. Burns. Cocaine, Zillin, it keeps you on your toes. Oh, God. Yeah. I don't think I can be doing that, Roar. Lou Lloyd says that's why I got a standing desk. I actually have a standing desk as well, but I never bought the proper length cords, or it's a TV that I have that I use as my third monitor. It's actually mounted to the wall, not to the desk, so the desk would rise up and hit the TV. But before Alpha 2, I plan on having it set up where I can stand up, because if I sit here for 16 hours a day making content and playing Alpha 2, it's going to be bad for my health. Roy, you're out here giving away pro secrets. He says energy drinks. I meant energy drinks. Sure you did, Roar. First time chatter from Nibiru97 says, hey everyone. Hi Nibiru, how you doing? Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Pallywag says, I'm still faster than Internet Explorer, so I'll take it. Boy, that's like being the smartest kid on the short bus, ain't it? It's not exactly something to brag about, bro. All right, let's check out a little more of this.
Be able to give too many details here because A, we don't have enough information, and B, like with any raid, your composition will change depending on the raid needs and requirements. Let's start with what we do know though. There will only be one tank class and healer class.
Well,
Though all other classes can off-tank or off-heal if they choose the proper subclass, the only real tank class is the class archetype literally labeled tank. I'm sure they'll come up with another name because...
I do want to take this opportunity to let you guys know there's a very important movement that's going on in our community right now. It is being led by the content creator Jamie Chaos, that I know a lot of you guys know. Jamie is putting together a petition. He wants to change the name of Tank to Vanguard in Ashes of Creation. And he has asked that anybody who wants to support that project, go ahead and message him on Discord. You can find him, through the Ashes Discord, and let him know that you would like to add your name to the list to change the Tank name to Vanguard. So Jamie Chaos, y'all go message him, let him know you want to get that name changed. You want your name on the list.
Because Tank is, well, not quite fantasy enough for me. The only real healing class will be the Cleric. For other classes to be able to off-tank or off-heal, they will need to pick up Tank or Cleric as their secondary archetype, and that will enable them to tank or heal more effectively.
I want to point out that he does not have this correct. This is not you choosing Tank as your secondary. Like if you're a mage and then Tank, like you're not going to be able to off tank. Doesn't automatically. In order to properly off tank, you have to be able to taunt the boss, and you're not going to get a taunt. That's not what's going to happen. You may get some abilities that increase your threat generation, and maybe if your DPS is strong enough, in addition to the threat generation, you could pull aggro off the tank, or be the second one on the aggro list, so that you get the aggro whenever a like the tank dies, for example. But you're not really an off tank. Not really. You need a taunt. And the same thing with Cleric. You taking a Cleric secondary class is not going to give you the ability to target someone and heal them. It's going to give it where, like, the attacks that you already have, you can now add a heal effect to them that will either heal you or, like, maybe the whole party by a small amount or something. But you are not going to be an actual healer. There is no off healer or off tank by secondarying into those classes. I want to make that very clear. Saluna, hey yo, what's going on? And we do know that, Mr. Noobtastic. We do know that. They've explained that in quite a bit of detail, actually. Saluna with the Prime sub, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everything you do. You're awesome. Whoa, I just hit the wrong button.
Cool about raid bosses is that their mechanics may be affected by changes in climate or obviously we won't be able to give too many details here because A, we don't have enough information, and B, like with any raid, your composition will change depending on the raid needs and requirements. Let's start with what we do know though. There will only be one tank class and healer class. Though all other classes can off tank or off heal if they choose the proper subclass, the only real tank class is the class archetype literally labeled Tank. I'm sure they'll come up with another name because Tank is, well, not quite fantasy enough for me. The only real healing class will be the Cleric. For other classes to be able to off-tank or off-heal, they will need to pick up Tank or Cleric as their secondary archetype, and that will enable them to tank or heal more effectively.
Vex says, wasn't Summoner also supposed to have healing pets? And then Levi says, yes, Summoners get DPS, healer, or tank pets. And I will point, that's better. That's better than, just being able to put random heals out. But even a healer pet, you aren't controlling the pet and telling the pet, hey, heal that guy. So even that is going to be, I would suspect, some type of, it just heals everybody type of situation. It's certainly not going to, could prioritize lowest healed person. But I don't know if it would be able to prioritize, like, you need to keep the tank alive at all costs and stuff like things that those really high level subroutines that healers are running in their head all the time while they're playing. I don't think that healer pets are going to be able to do that. G says use space instead of mouse to pause. I know. I'm bad at Twitch and YouTube. Let's be clear here. Something we all already know. I'm bad at this. I'm still getting used to doing it. So my bad. They said pets have to get actively controlled? You know what? I don't remember them saying that. And then also, does that mean their location, like if they stand in stupid, or does that mean like you have to choose their abilities manually. And if you have to choose their abilities manually, then I would say going summoner and then cleric would allow you to be an off healer, or summoner and then tank would allow you to be an off tank. If you choose their abilities manually, it's just a very different kind. That's unique. I would like to see that. But of course, we don't know about freaking summoners yet. They won't tell us. They keep teasing us. Saluna says, what video are we watching? Saluna, this is a new Ashes of Creation content creator named Moonman OFC. I'll drop a link to his channel in here before I get out of here. He has a couple hundred subscribers, but he's getting thousands of views on his videos. And this video is all about raiding in Ashes of Creation. And you know I'm a big raid fan, so here we are. Vex says, yeah, I thought you controlled pets, but they haven't revealed much about them. Like you target someone and hit a pet skill. That's interesting. That is interesting. I may have missed it when they said that. How dare me not know every last piece of information about the game, right? Mr. Noobtax says Summoner will give us a lot of answers. Yes, it will. All right, here we go.
I'm a little bit iffy on their decision to only have one true tank class and one true healing class. I get the feeling that it could create some stale gameplay loops and lack of decision making when it comes to raid composition, because you may need to stack your raid with a ton of clerics or always bring multiple, quote, tank archetypes. That said, maybe through immense amount of variability in abilities, secondary archetypes, and so on, I'll be wrong, and all the dynamics in the class systems will even this out. Obviously, we won't really know.
I know that was one of the big complaints during the cleric live stream, when they showed off the cleric, is that there's only one healing class, and so they're all the same. And I actually made a video on YouTube that I ended up taking down because nobody watched it, that was going in and showing how, with limited skill point selection and lots of choices on skills, that you would be able to make wildly different types of cleric. I actually showed 5 very, very different types of cleric that would play very different from one another with just the few abilities that they've shown us so far. So while there's only one cleric, you're going to be able to play as a bursty cleric or a like a raid maintenance hot type cleric. You're going to be able to play as a up front in battle, swinging your weapon around and doing heals that way cleric. You can play as an offensive, almost like a mage type of cleric. So I kind of brush those complaints to the side. There's a lot of variation to this game. With just the little bit they've shown us, that's without secondary class types and augments and all that stuff. So yeah, it's going to be wildly different.
Until we start playing, and as I talk through that, I'm thinking that the team will ensure that off tanks and off healers will bring enough power to the equation to drive lots of variability in raid composition. Typical 40-man raid comps are as such. Usually you'll have 12 to 14 melee DPS, 12 to 14 range DPS, 2 tanks, and 10 to 12 healers. For easier content, you can stack more DPS than healers, and for certain encounters you might run more healers, but 2 tanks is typically what you can expect, though some encounters may require more. Since we haven't played an Ashes of Creation raid, we don't know exactly how raid comps will look. Maybe we can get away with 5 to 6 healers and heavily stacked DPS, or maybe we'll need 10 to 15 healers. I don't know.
Yeah, he's right about this. We really don't know. To me, right now, healing looks a little OP. The healing is maybe a little too easy. I suspect that a part of that is because they haven't really put a lot of dot-based damage, or what I call pressure-based damage, in the game. Doesn't seem like many of the classes, or any of the classes, have a pure, I'm going to stack dots on you and then use some ability that makes the dots tick faster or stronger or anything like that. There's not a pure dot-based DPS class yet. And when it's that pressure that can make healing difficult. And right now it's just huge chunks, and you just chunk them back up and it just goes back and forth. And so, yeah, I feel like healing's a little OP, so you probably reduce those healers by a little bit.
My best guess is that the team aims to create a balanced raid experience, largely based on the expected makeup of classes. Since only one class is considered a main healer, and only one class is considered a main tank, it would make sense that...
No. That's correct. That's incorrect. There are 8 main tanks and 8 main healers. Let's get that straight. Let's see. We got some chat here. I saw something. Jamie just called you a dirty little slut. What do you have to say for yourself? Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I don't know why he's so upset with me for trying to bring attention to his cause. I understand that it's very personal to him, and he's, it matters a lot to him, and maybe that's what he's upset about. But I just encourage people to message Jamie Chaos and let him know that you want to put your name on the petition list to get the name of Tank changed to Vanguard. Jamie spitting facts. Pallyweg says, my favorite thing to do is heal with multiple classes and raids. That would be my biggest concern from this game from a healer's perspective. And Wags, I kind of just answered that for you. Like, there's many different ways you can make. I was doing it with the abilities that you currently have. You can make a druid style healer. You can make a paladin style healer. Like the different World of Warcraft healers, you can make those style of healers inside of the game through the use of spending your skill points on specific things. So you'll still have those other abilities, but they just won't be strong enough for you to ever really use them. You're always going to make the choice to use the abilities that you put points into, and you don't have enough points to put them into everything. Lewis says, yeah, the problem I have with clerics is that they have 20 ways to heal and very little agency. Very little agency. And I would like for you to explain that a little more clearly. Patrick Millhouse says, sup? What's going on, brother? Thanks for stopping in Discord, hanging out with us a little bit last night, man. I appreciate it. Vex says, I think Bard is necessary to know really what the composition is going to look like. Definitely Bard is going to be necessary for mana regeneration. For sure. For sure. Pierre says, bleed. Yes, there are very little to no bleed effects in the game, and there's definitely not classes or builds on classes that are designed to put out heavy dot pressure. Like there's an attack that, oh, by the way, at the end of it, it does, 20 damage over 5 seconds or whatever. But there's nothing that like stacks several dots and then every time you attack, it causes the dot to tick, or all these different mechanics that all the other MMOs have for dot pressure. And yeah, let's hope that it's Rogue, right? Healing is the most OP ability in any MMO. I mean, well, that's true. Without healers, it gets tough. Maybe Bard will get dots. Maybe. I think with secondary classes, and as we get further into this thing, that's when you'll start seeing a lot of the dot stuff. They just haven't gotten to that yet. Mana will be an issue from what I heard, but they've also said that the Bard is going to solve or at least mitigate that to some degree. Zillan says, abilities from the summon appear on the summoner's hotbar. The summoner is essentially playing through their summon. Interesting. See, that's what I love about the Ashes community, man. You guys know more than all of us content creators. We're just running off our mouths about stuff that we barely understand. You guys come in and set the record straight for us. Who does that is following? Rack. Thanks for the follow, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we don't know what we're doing here. We're just doing the best we can. Lou Lloyd says, agency meaning like spells to use on self, mobility, or CC, a way to survive fights if played properly, even if they don't win. Yeah, you have to keep in mind that I think we have levels 1 through 15 worth of abilities, and the game goes to 50. So there's a lot more coming. And that is the one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize when they're looking at these classes and the class kits, is this is like early Alpha 2 class kit. By the time you're level 35, you're likely to have a little bit of CC, maybe some different offensive or defensive cooldowns or something like that. Bard meta incoming. All right, let's check this out some more.
That the tank requirement would be low, but I wonder what the healing requirements will look like. It's quite possible that raids will require a large amount of off heals. I could see the raid composition looking more like this: 15 to 18 dedicated DPS, 10 to 15 DPS, or...
So right now, you guys go back. I'm gonna go back a little bit. You guys just watch the healing frame over here, and you will notice that it's just moving in chunks. There's not that, like, everybody's health is slowly moving down constantly because they have dots being hitting them from all over the place. And if you'll notice, if you go back and watch the Node War video, it's exactly the same. Watch these raid frames.
That the tank requirement would be low, but I
It
wonder
just
what the
chunks
healing
in,
requirements
chunks
will
out,
look
chunks
like.
in, chunks
it's
out.
Quite
There's
possible
no,
that
like,
raids
pressure
will
to it.
require a large amount of off heals. I could see the raid composition looking more like this: 15 to 18 dedicated DPS,
Everybody takes
10
a big,
to 15
big
DPS
chunk of damage.
or off heals,
The healers
or
heal
off
it all
tanks,
back up.
2
and there
main
you go,
tanks,
you're
and
back to full
8 to
again.
10 main healers. I feel like the team is going to aim to have off healing and off tanking be a big part of raid composition to A, incentivize classes using tank or cleric as their secondary archetype, and B, drive the need for a large range of secondary archetype benefits. Either way, my hope is that raid composition allows for a fair amount of flexibility and the need for many different archetypes and secondary archetypes. I'm not a fan of the WoW Classic model, where you could stack almost entirely warriors and you'd be the top parsing and quickest clearing raid. I like the idea of raids that have a need for almost every class in the game, and where every class can either perform on a similar level, or specific classes fill specific niches in the scope of a raid environment. Anywho, moving on to raid locations, unfortunately we don't have much information on this specific to raids. If we use dungeons as a basis for expectations here, then that would mean that there would be a raid for...
Raindown says, I would love to see bards be a class that makes other classes better instead of having their own heals. Instead, I think they should need to have percentage-based buffs to all different aspects. Healers heal better, fighters fight better. That's how I've always viewed the bard class or archetype in other games. Dark Age of Camelot being my favorite one. That's exactly what it was called the minstrel for the realm that I played on. That's what it did. It made everybody else better. It made helped them regen their powers, their mana or magic power. I forget what it was. And there was a little bit of CC, and there was you could off tank a little bit, but it was just kind of a jack of all trades type of class that made everyone else around them better instead of, like you said, being an off healer. I don't want it to be an off healer. I want it to make everybody better. And that is why the first secondary archetype combo I plan to try when they finally give us secondary archetypes is tank bard, which is Argent, because I kind of hopefully view it as like a captain on the battlefield. Like, you're a tank, you can hold aggro, you can taunt, all those things, but you're putting out auras that, like you said, make your DPS hit harder or make your healers heal better or whatever. And smartly rotating between your auras is like how you would affect the battlefield in the most positive way. So that's what I'm hoping. Luloy says, I think being able to pick your playstyle is how it should be designed, and hopefully we get more. I mean, I think that's exactly how it's designed now. You're going to be picking your playstyle. I don't like world bosses just having a shit ton of HP, and it feels like a giant slog. Haha. Yeah, I'm really hoping that the bosses aren't just loot pinatas. That, like I said earlier, as long as you have enough people to overwhelm the boss and then enough people to defend you from anybody who's trying to come take your kill, it's an automatic free kill. I'm not a fan of that. So hopefully they have mechanics. The Cyclops boss had some mechanics, but not enough to make it like a true world boss difficulty that I would like to see. Bard equals support. It's Fane says, what game is this? Fane, this is, you wouldn't know anything about this game, man. It's a little unheard of game that nobody cares about. Nobody's ever put any money toward or anything like that, so you wouldn't know anything about it. Jay says, I have so many subclasses I'd love to see be fun. Warlock and Necro look interesting. Yes. There, if you look through that list, that class chart, like it's tempting to just be like, oh, I get it. Like, your brain says, oh, I understand the concept. You're going to be this, and boom, and you're good. But if you start looking through them and look at the specific combinations of what's making things like Summoner and Cleric being Necromancer, you go, oh, that's a little more than what I was thinking. So I agree with you. There's some very interesting ones in there if you're paying attention. None, it doesn't exist. That's right. Feels bad, man. Not a real game. All right.
For each node in the world, I don't think it makes much sense that there would be 85 different raids in Ashes of Creation, though. But it also wouldn't make sense to not have a raid for every node, because if there's not a raid for each node, it would mean that certain nodes that develop wouldn't play into any raid content necessarily. So we'd create the groundwork for players to ignore certain nodes and would put a higher value on other nodes. So for now, we don't really know how many raids there will be or how exactly raid locations will be chosen. I wonder if they might...
So he might be a little bit confused here. I don't think you need a raid for every node. The nodes are close enough that that would be a little bit silly. I think that they're going to have certain groupings of nodes, and in each of those groups of nodes, depending on which nodes are which level, it's going to spawn different raids. That's kind of how I anticipate it working. I could even be wrong about that, obviously. But yeah, a raid for every node doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't think it's necessary.
Might be placed between various nodes and multiple nodes feed into the raid in some way. We do know that initially there will be 12 to 15 raid bosses in the world, and that player activity and node development will likely influence the introduction of more raids. Long-winded way of saying we'll find out soon enough. We may not know raid locations or quantity, but we do know their difficulty will be adaptive. Unlike other adaptive systems that typically only look at the number of players, Ashes of Creation's adaptive difficulty is much more in-depth. The system will look at the number of players participating to adjust difficulty, but the more interesting piece of the system is that it will also look at performance of previous encounters. What this means is that you could enter the raid and easily defeat the first boss, but then the second boss will adapt and become harder because your performance was so...
I want to point out that much like the other tech that they talked about the bosses itself adapting to the way you attack the boss, this is technology that they mentioned one time and never mentioned again. Like, we don't know if this is actually going to be in the game. He talked about it, and then it's been radio silence. There are a lot of systems that they talked about, and then there's been radio silence on that people still assume are in the game, and that are still on the wiki and stuff like that. So I'm not saying they don't exist. I just want to point out that it was kind of mentioned, and then...
so great on the first boss. I think the core goal of this system is to ensure that no one engages in raid content without having a certain level of difficulty. Another important aspect of the adaptive difficulty is that when it is looking at the number of players in the encounter, the bosses will put more weight on casting AoE spells than if there were a smaller number of players. Even though raids are meant for 40 players, I wonder if this means that it could be advantageous to bring less than 40, or if this is specifically meant for when multiple raids are trying to engage the same boss. That would mean that multiple raids taking on the same boss could create conditions where every raid fails because the difficulty has increased so much, and the number of AoEs going out could be potentially unmanageable. I really like that these systems are in place and that the team is trying to ensure that all encounters feel fresh no matter what. You have adaptive scaling of content difficulty combined with potential changes to spells, and the whole encounter depending on the season and time of day, and changes that may happen due to player activity through node development and story arcs. I feel like raids are going to be very interesting because there's so much that can change and adjust even on a boss you fought previously. Because the majority of raids are open world, raid looting is a very important detail to understand. Not just...
Jay says if you have 3 to 5 different types and just select the nodes based on region, it would make sense. So any node in the snow area would be in this raid. Yeah, I think there are ways to do this without doing, like he said, where you potentially would have a raid for every single node. That just doesn't make sense. Lou Lloyd says, living by the Steven said once trust system. We're all living by that system, brother. Every single one of us. Royer says there's so much faith in that system, and that's the truth. Vladis Gaming, the superstar, stops in. What's going on, man? How are you doing? I'm skeptical of the entire rating system. Also, hi, Zillan. Yeah, Vlad, we've talked about this quite a bit on my streams lately. I'm skeptical of PvE in general in this game and how difficult it's going to be. I will say that if they deliver on the promise that this content creator here is laying out with the adaptive technology and the boss being different every time you go to it, and as I've said earlier, being more reaction based rather than memorization based as far as your raid bosses and stuff are concerned, it could be huge, like huge for Ashes of Creation, and really launch this game into the stratosphere. But I want to see more. What we've seen so far is for like PvE, difficult PvE content is pretty much the Cyclops And while there were some mechanics, and it was pretty cool to see, it didn't look that difficult. And so I'm ready to see a little more. Levi says Zillion changed raid difficulty based on how many flowers you pick. I know that you said that in kind of a in jest, but what if that was part of the land management system? You could affect how difficult a raid boss is. Like, let's say it's some type of a organic, tree-like or plant-like tentacle-based mob or something, and if you've picked a whole bunch of flowers in the area, it makes it more difficult, and therefore it drops better gear or something like that. Like, I know you said that in jest, but yeah, seriously. Thrux says, I'll be honest, the idea of PvX is really cool, but if there isn't good PvE in the game, I won't be playing long. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm there, but it's definitely going to affect how, like, gung-ho I am about it. There needs to be good, high-quality, difficult PvE in this game. Jay says, I wouldn't expect the open world bosses to be fairly difficult or as mechanics. I'd hope that they'd save that for encounters that are much more difficult to gain access. That's interesting. You want part of the difficulty of the bosses just being gaining access to it. Could you expand on that, Jace? Like, what ways would be difficult to gain access to a boss that would make it a little more acceptable for you? Triple Play says tentacle based. How is that in your immediate lexicon? Do not answer or ask questions that you don't want the answer to. Okay, that's as simple as that. Vex says pick flowers during the raid. Get them, gardeners. There you go. That's mixing. It's not mixing PvP and PvE, is it? That's mixing PvE and crafting. Okay. Well, there you go. That's PvX.
Just passing out loot, but more importantly, the way that loot tagging works. It seems likely that other raids would be present and that competition to get the tag or loot from a specific boss will be prevalent. As far as loot system themselves, these should be familiar to any MMO gamer. There will be free-for-all, loot master, round robin, and need before greed. Free-for-all should be self-explanatory. Loot master is when an individual is in charge of choosing who receives an item. Round robin is when the loot goes to different members in a cycle. And need before greed is when you can choose to need or greed an item. And
okay, I'm about to go all Jamie Chaos and have like my little tiny particular nitpick that nobody else cares about, but I lose my mind about it on stream. Need versus greed. What's the rule when it comes to need versus greed? Somebody tell me what the rule is. When the thing pops up and it's something that you can use, you hit need, right? Need on everything, Wagsy says. You're part of the problem, Wagsy. So if it's something that you can use, you hit need, right? And then if it's something that your class can't use, but you're like, hey, I could deconstruct that, or, just whatever. I have an alt that can use it or whatever. You press greed. Am I right about that? Is that how it should be? Jay says need versus greed. If it's something you are an active spec for, then roll need. If it's for your off spec, then it's greed, which is more or less what I just said. Vladis says I am the problem, bro. No worries. Wag says you need on everything, especially if you're with your buddies. Yeah. Need if it's an upgrade to your main gear set. Greed for anything else. Was rarely an issue in SWTOR. Well, that's interesting that you say that. because where this problem came up for me was in SWOTOR. There was a time period when I first got into raiding and dungeoneering, operations and flashpoints, as they're called in SWOTOR, where it was like considered rude for you to need on anything ever. You were supposed to greed on things that you needed and pass on things that you would use if you could get them, you would accept them and use them for another class or whatever, an alt. At least on the server that I was on. And I just lost my damn mind at that. Like, I don't understand how that never ends up with people end up getting what they actually want or need. So I've always wondered if that was like just very localized to my little RP server on SWOTOR, or if that was a broader problem at any given time. Okay, I know, Miss One. Jay said, so if you want to gain harder level loot to make epic gear, these bosses would be in caves and ruins that the mobs and level would force a team of people to have to cleave into, so it would force teams of people to have to be ready for a long push and fight, not a random boss walking in the world that anyone could stumble upon. Okay. Raindown says, how badass would it be to change the land to prep for boss? Boss says it's coming to kick your node's ass in 7 in real life days. Your node knows he is weak to a type of plant, so you cultivate the area to weaken it, to drive him away completely. That's interesting. And one of the cool things about Ashes of Creation that a lot of people aren't really thinking about or talking about yet because we're so far away from it is that type of thing is actually possible with the systems they are putting in place. So we're thinking about all of these systems and how they're going to affect how they would affect games as we know them, not thinking about how revolutionary this game is going to be, and a lot of these systems are going to be, or should be, assuming that they deliver on their promises, and how the different things that are going to come from that. So that's an interesting concept. I would like to see them be able to pull it off. Vladis, hot take: remove the need green system and make it all master looter. Boy, that ain't a hot take. That's just facts. That's just facts. Should be master looter. I love it. Wag says, the way it is, that's just the way it goes these days in raids. Everyone just clicks a need on everything, so if you don't automatically, you're out. Dang, that's rough. That's rough. It wasn't like that in SWOTOR. I will say this. After the community got past the whole little greed on stuff you actually need and pass on stuff you actually greed kind of thing, the need system, for the most part, people did what they were supposed to do for a long time. SWOTOR, I'm the guy that wrote the guide for Trooper and Bounty Hunter tanking. Haha, I missed that game. Jay, oh my God. I know you. Oh, that's hilarious. Yes, I was a Vanguard Power Tech main tank on Bedroom Colony, little tiny server. I was one of the best tanks on that server, but again, that's like being the smartest kid on on the short bus. What's up, Wolf Broski? On the SWOTOR, I said fuck them and needed what I needed. I mean, eventually that's what I did too. Lloyd says, I played on RP server in SWOTOR 2 and still needed when needed and greeted everything else. Okay. What server did you play on, Lude? Wolfheart says, I'm going to make it a point to see you and Zillin in the alpha regardless of server. I guess you're talking to Vladis. You come on, Wolf. We had this discussion yesterday. Have anybody ever hit you with a pool noodle? Like you just been hanging out in the pool swimming and they got them long styrofoam noodles that you float on and somebody hit you with one? You know how like it stung a little bit? Like a little bit? But like I could do that for 3 hours and it wouldn't, like you'd be fine. That's what tanks are like in Ashes of Creation. And I'm going to be a tank. So if you want to get smacked around with a pool noodle for a few hours, come on over here, brother. Come on. Master Loot takes way too long. Nah, Master Loot don't take way too long. Master Loot is perfect. Master Loot is perfect. It slows the game down. It stops that crazy World of Warcraft, I must run the dungeon 76 times today or I'm going to fall behind rat race nonsense. Slow down, play the game, enjoy it. Enjoy the game. Of course, you would run across the need on everything players, but most people quickly stopped getting invites. Yes, yep, you get it. Eskin Flone, tanking and you. Yep, I remember those things, man. Did you write any guides on Dolphy? Is that where you wrote your guides? I love my Pyro Bounty Hunter and DPS Vanguard. Yeah, so one of my objectives in Ashes of Creation is going to be able to create a fighter build, and I don't know what secondary we'll have to use, but I want to create a fighter build that ends up playing somewhat like a DPS Vanguard with that kind of like mid-range, like you can be close or you can be mid. You're only really out of it if you're really far away. That I've been wanting to do that for a long time. My Iron Fist PvP build was magic back in the day.
Ready to serve, my lord.
I don't know why that got so small on my screen. Zeronaum? Zeron? Thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Really do. Wag said tank versus cleric, the 1,000-hour battle. Yes. Zeronom. I'm going to go with Zeronom. Wolfart says, I'd rather not be slapped by your pull nodal, but I guess it is what it is. Come on, man. Come on. Zero, I appreciate you stopping in, chatting, joining the conversation. We are mostly talking about raiding in Ashes of Creation. Mabari says, gross. Hey, it is what it is, my friend.
And those that roll greed will only be able to roll if no one has needed on the item. So effectively, you're only rolling against people that needed, or only people that greeted, with need having a higher weight on the roll, ultimately. The last looting system is still up for debate as to whether it will be implemented, but the team is investigating potentially introducing a GDKP system. In other words, a bidding system into the game. I'm personally against this just because I know it creates a large potential for players to engage in third-party transactions, and as a result, the one with the most real money is the one with the most in-game currency to effectively win all the loot. Again, this is still something that the team is thinking about implementing and is not 100% going to be in the game.
I say you let guilds do whatever damn loot system they want. Personally, my guild, we've always used a modified Suicide Kings list as our DKP system, but let guilds do whatever they want and don't have it be a forced system within the game like that, personally.
For those that don't know, GDKP is basically a bidding system where you bid your in-game currency for items, and then at the end of the raid it is split amongst everyone that participated. Anywho, loot tagging is really the biggest concern here because of how much open world content there will be. In order to secure the loot tag, you can't just tag the boss or mob first. The system will be taking into account two things. One, if you get the tag first, and two, is dependent on dealing the most damage. If you get the first hit on the boss, you'll get an additional edge over opponents to get the loot tag. But if your opponents do significantly more damage, you likely will not get the loot. I have some concerns with the system because it could incentivize certain raid groups to bring an overwhelming amount of DPS to ensure they almost always get the loot tag, while letting competing raid groups handle dealing with the tanking of the boss. That said, you could argue that if a raid brings a non-balanced composition, they may have a hard time even staying alive long enough to get the tag on the boss. I don't really know.
Vex says, but Intrepid is going to crack down on cheaters and gold sellers harder than any other MMO. I plan on doing a stream that's all about botting coming up here pretty soon. Dr. Burns, the Copium Clinic. If you're not following him on YouTube, I don't even know what you're doing with your life. But he's done both a video on botting and a video on Intrepid's data gathering. And I think the two of those videos together, if you really look at them as kind of like one video or a video series, that they tell a real specific story that I don't even think that he caught on with the story that it was telling. So I plan on doing a stream that's going to be all about that coming up in the future. Loot drama is fun to make a spectacle. Yes, it is. I always love that. I think was it a Reddit post? I think it was a Reddit post somebody did a while back that was basically tell me your guild's loot system and I'll tell you why it's flawed. And it was like it didn't matter what system you put down in there, to how many foolproof things you had, how many caveats you put in there to like overcome this weakness or that weakness. They were able to be like, well, then this person gets screwed or that person gets screwed. And the reality is there is no like truly fair loot system, of which the real reality is that fair is an illusion. There's no such thing as fair anywhere, but that's a whole other conversation. Vladis says Ashes needs to do a DKP system in the UI. What about for guilds that don't use DKP? Like that's where I get into the stuff with it being in the UI. Is like not everybody uses that system. We need GDKP. Get out of here with that stuff. Zero says up to your guild. You should all be working as a team anyway, so there should not be too much drama, but there always is, man. I ran a progression guild for a long time, and even though the people in that guild, and especially that were in my particular raiding group, we were all friends. We're all still friends to this day. A lot of them don't have Alpha 2 access, but they will be there at launch, and a lot of those people will still be there. I've flown across the country and met some of them. I mean, some of them have flown across the country and met me. They still whine, bitched, and complained about various aspects of gear. It never stops. Lou Lloyd says, I know Steven wanted to add a bunch of systems for guilds because that was his biggest pet peeve as a guild leader, so I think this might be a thing. Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I really hope there's really, really good guild leader tools, especially since I've finally made the decision to go ahead and create a guild for Alpha 2 and into launch, which, by the way, if you don't have a guild for Alpha 2, come jump in my Discord and apply for my guild Organized Chaos. Shameless plug. Yeah, I hope there's really, really good tools. And DKP is not the worst system. It's just not my preferred system. If there aren't gold sellers, there is no harm in GDKPS. You know what? You might be right about that. You might be right about that. Maybe. I could see some arguments, but you might be right about that. It's simply a loot system. Also, it's very helpful to pure support classes. Dante says, Zillin, do you think Intrepid will change this loot system so no one gets screwed? Dante, there is a very, very smart man, one of the smartest men alive, named Thomas Sowell, who famously said there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And so, no. There will be no system in which no one gets screwed. Somebody will always get screwed. Fair is an illusion. Jay said, I like reverse DKP and Suicide Kings. Yeah, I found Suicide Kings to be the most fair, but it still had problems and issues. But I kept a modified Suicide Kings list for years and years and years for my raid team. And for the most part, we had very little drama. Though the biggest problem was whenever you had somebody miss and you had to have somebody come in and fill in the spot. Where do they start on the list? And how fair is that to them? But other than that, it worked really well. Jay said, I ran a mythic raiding guild in WoW with the same people for almost 14 years, and one expat killed it all for us when we all went our separate ways. Since then, I've become a solo player / tiers. Organized Chaos. Organized Chaos. Zero says, separate note, if there aren't gold sellers in the game, ain't that popular. They always exist, just need to be controlled. Well, we'll talk about that. I think that Intrepid might be the first game. Maybe. But might be the first game that can get him out of there.
Until I try some raid bosses. On one hand, you could say this is a huge plus for creating innovative strategies to secure loot, and on the other, you could say this creates potential for effectively sidestepping content in a way. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. I'm actually really curious how everyone feels about this loot tagging system and the potential consequences it could create. The last thing to touch on here is the loot tables. Oh yes, the one thing we care about when it comes to raids. What's in it for me? Money, gear, prestige, glory? That's what raiding's all about. Excuse me, I got a little carried away there. Back to it. Loot tables from world bosses or dungeon bosses has a small RNG chance of dropping gear. or in other words, completed items, there's a much higher chance that materials and unique recipes are dropped that can be used to craft items of equitable value. This is an important aspect here. Gear's only a small part of the drops from raids, and unique recipes for craftables and unique materials is the more likely reward. That means crafting is going to be a huge aspect of Ashes of Creation. Similar to how Thunder Fury was the most beastly weapon in vanilla WoW, I can see unique craftable items being some of the best gear in the game for Ashes. I personally like that a lot because it isn't just about completing the raid boss, it's also about working with your guild to then gather the materials to help each other acquire more gear outside of raiding. It's actually a pretty common thread through the whole game. Working with others is going to be a major aspect of the game, and I get the feeling that those with a tight-knit group will be the ones that succeed.
Look at all these people I hate. Z, Fane, DA, Daedalus. Just playing Ashes of Creation right in front of my face without letting me be part of it. Mabari says me. Yeah, you too, man. Oh, Jen XOG says Suicide Kings. How does that work? You create a list at the beginning of a raid team. So when the raid team first starts, everybody rolls. The highest person goes at the top of the list, and second person second, and on down through the list. And that list is permanent and lasts forever and ever and ever. So as long as that raid team is together, you're using the same list. And so you kill the first boss, and the person at the top of the list is asked, do you want the item that dropped? They say yes. If they say yes, they drop to the bottom of the list. Everybody else moves up, and you move on. If they say no, you ask the second person. They say no, you ask the third person. They say yes. That person drops to the bottom of the list, and it all moves up. And so every time you decide to take gear, you suicide to the bottom. That's why it's called Suicide Kings. You suicide to the bottom of the list, and so you can hold out and wait for a piece that you specifically want, or, it benefits a lot. Like if you have somebody who's not as geared, people will pass on gear a lot, and that person will stay at like 6 or 7 and keep dropping to the bottom, but it actually gears them up faster that way. So it works out. But the problem is, let's say the person that's third on the list can't make it tonight, and you find a substitute. Does that person go to the third on the list? Do they start on the bottom? If they're the substitute and you kill 4 bosses, so they move up 4 spots on the list, but now they're still 12th on the list. They helped you but didn't get anything out of it. Like how do you support that? So that's how Suicide Kings works in general. Basically, you take gear, you drop to the bottom of the list, and the list stays perpetual. I'd really prefer for only crafting pieces to drop, not whole items, so it still rewards crafters. I completely agree. I would love to see... I would like to see world bosses and high-end raid bosses, the ones that are unlocked from having high-level nodes in certain areas, drop augments. So that's augments to skills that only certain people would have access to. Recipes for gear, and those recipes to have limited numbers of uses, and crafting recipes that would be used to make the recipes that you get from the bosses. I think if they dropped those 3 things, along with gold and mounts and cosmetics and stuff like that, I think that would make it awesome. I think it would make it interesting, and it would make it compelling long term, and create that pressure scenario where there's always pressure to tear down the world and rebuild it in a different place, to have a different world boss spawn that will spawn different recipes, different augments, and different materials. Jay says, I used to play with DA and Envious. And yeah, DA's a good dude. Droog says, those bastards. That's the first time you've ever chatted in my channel, Droog? That can't be right. It can't be. Well, whatever. So if everyone passes, does it just become an open role? And what if you miss a raid? Do you get moved down the list or something? You don't get moved down the list for missing a raid. You just stay where you are. I would literally move you to the side. I was using a Excel document, so I could just move you to the side, and the list would move up and down and do whatever it did. And then whenever your time came back in, I just slide you back into your slot. You lurk a lot. And then, yes, if everyone passes, you just roll for it. Vexillian says, crafters make the best shit. I think it's kind of going to be that way. 100%. 100%. Jay says, I like bidding with points. And that's kind of like DKP. I know somebody asked what DKP is. I don't know what reverse DKP is because I never really used DKP. I've just heard about it. That's where you get points based on attending raids and then actually killing bosses. It stands for dragon kill points. So you kill a dragon, you get 50 points. Just for being at the raid, you get 5. I don't know the numbers. I'm just spitballing. And then you auction. They auction the gear off for points. So you've gained 400 points over the last 2 weeks while y'all progging on a boss. You can spend your 400 points on the piece of gear if you want to. I don't know what reverse is though. But you bid the amount of points you want to spend on the item. Yep. And that's a good system too. It has its own flaws, but it's a good system too. All right, let's finish this out.
Back to loot. Legendary equipment is only dropped by legendary world bosses. The stats on dropped items will vary based on the rarity of the item. There won't be specific loot drops for artisans, and loot tables are likely to not be affected by weather conditions. The last thing here is that drop changes will likely not be made public. The question in my mind is if loot tables will be made public. I personally hope not, and I also hope that the team finds a way to stop data miners from acquiring the information. I thoroughly enjoy MMOs being an experience of delving into the unknown. The less people that can theory craft and pre-plan routes for being, quote, meta, the better. I love discovering things about the game and finding new weird ways to play it. That's all I have for this video, and thanks so much for watching. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more. I'm working on an Ashes of Creation naval content video next, and there is a ton to unpack with that, so I can't wait to dive in. I'll catch you all in the next one. Moonman out.
All right, Moonman. So let's give Moonman a like here. Look at this, 100 likes on this video. That's outstanding. 3K views. All right, so let me. I didn't want to push any of those buttons.
Ready to serve, my lord.
Man, I need a brighter screen. I cannot see what this says. Whoever just followed, thank you. I didn't get to see it. I need a brighter screen. So here is Moonman's channel. You guys all jump over there and make sure to subscribe to his channel, watch some of his content. His video's got a lot of views. I think his delivery is very, very good, the way he talks about everything. I think he might misunderstand a little bit of the systems, but that's okay. Very good creator. Very good creator. So y'all go check him out. Lududu says, hey, Zillin in chat. What's going on, man? Droog, how the hell was I wasn't already following you? Dude, so many people that I know were following me during Alpha 1 are re-following me now. Now that I'm actually back creating content again. So don't feel bad about it, man. I think a lot of people are in that boat. Droog says, but things like DKP have the added benefit of incentivizing people to show up over the Loot Council. And yes, in general, I find that any system that where you can not show up a lot and still end up with gear is not particularly good, unless you have like you said, a group that just they want it. They're there all the time. And then yeah, absolutely, a Loot Council can work. I was a feral druid in original vanilla, and my raid guild required me to raid. I had a ton of DKP, and they didn't let me get the item over a rogue. It made me so sad. I became horde and never went back. Yeah, and that's Pocket. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody earlier said, basically there shouldn't be drama over gear, and I'm like, there's always drama over gear, always. That's funny. Oof, yeah, that's a shit Loot Council. And if they're going to make those kind of calls, then why even have a DKP? Yep. Gazera says, data miners, in my humble opinion, are a cancer on gaming, and I don't think anyone can change my mind on that. I don't know that anybody would change their mind or even attempt to change their mind on that. I don't know anybody who disagrees with that. That just seems kind of, yeah, they're cancer. It's a problem. It definitely doesn't make things better. They turn the, y'all gonna put me off on a soapbox, man. So I have a group of friends that I play games with. A couple of them may even be watching right now. And their first answer, this is how bad like this whole thing has gotten. Their first answer to I have spent more than 5 minutes trying to figure something out in a game is run to YouTube and get the answer. Immediately. They don't want to spend just a few minutes trying. I would spend an hour trying before I would even attempt to look anything up. And it happens every time we get into a new game. They find something, they're like, I have to get coal in order to make this. Well, how do I get coal? And it's like you try a few things for 5 minutes and then they're like, fuck it. And they go and start looking it up. And then as soon as you do that, the second you do that, number one, you've put yourself on the YouTube algorithm for I would like advice on game X. And so you're going to be getting fed clickbaity, sensationalized, really tempting you to click stuff on that game for a while, unless you can successfully ignore it. But of course, there's going to be one that you're like, oh, that's a good, I want to know that. And you click that. And then before you know it, you're watching videos, you understand the entire game. And what you do is you turn a game into a checklist of things to accomplish because now you know how to accomplish them. You just got to check it off. Okay, coal, chop down tree, check. Take it to a fire, check. Put it in the fire, check. Take out the coal, check. I have coal now. And it's like you just turn everything into a checklist, and data miners do that on like on a massive scale. So yes, not a fan. We don't have discovery because data miners are too zealous. Yep. No doubt about it. Vex says, ambitious video for him to make content on a topic that I haven't had a showcase for a game that doesn't exist yet. Hey, I've made videos on the same topic. Oh, it's all thin air content right now. It is, but it's getting a little better. That's funny though. Josh says, hey, does naval content require leveling coastal nodes? And if so, wouldn't it make sense to have harbor sieges as well as node sieges? Naval content is going to require leveling coastal nodes. They have confirmed that there are going to be some nodes that are coastal. But the harbor is going to be a part of the node. So when you launch a node siege, you are launching a harbor siege. That's how I would understand that. Droog says, gear changes people, man. Led a group of 40 in Classic WoW in 2019, and we were all super chill. By the time we got into 3 tiers of raid content, everyone was a bunch of assholes. Gear does change people. And that, see, Droog, you're seeing things how I'm seeing things. You're seeing things how I'm seeing things. I think that the fact that different gear is going to drop from different raid bosses and different world bosses, that is going to be based on which nodes are leveled and to which level they are leveled, is going to create pressure on guilds because, you know, your guild lives in this stage 4 economic node, but your class needs a sword that drops from a stage 6 scientific node, and you need to tear down the military node in your area to go to the scientific node, but your guild don't want to do that because you're allied with the patron guild and the mayor of the scientific or the military node that runs your area or whatever. And it's like, it's just going to create pressure and drama and fracturing and stuff all the time. Josh says, I feel like Naval Raid should be the first true PVX rating system in an MMO. Interesting. Ladulu says, digs on the forum push the same logic onto me. Just look it up. I hate that. I want to learn the game in the game. Yes. Yes. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to make guides for this game. I'm going to make tutorials, walkthroughs, tips and tricks, build guides, meta guides, off meta guides, off meta guides. Like, I plan on, that's going to be what I do for this game. But it's mostly because I know that there's no stopping that train of like people coming in to do it. And I enjoy teaching and I enjoy helping people be better at the game. But I also at the same time despise how much it just like I said, just turns the game into kind of a checklist. Acquire set bonus. Learn rotation that I was taught. Be good at game. Check mark. That's why I like playing content right at release when there isn't anything to go tempt me for information externally. Yes, yes. It's funny. I have a real love-hate with the just our entire culture of early access games. They're just everywhere. Everybody's releasing early access games, especially survival games. I like survival games, so I'm always tempted to go buy some $12 or $14 half-baked game. And I know it's half-baked, and I don't want to buy it because I know it's fucking half-baked, and I'm going to play it for a week, and then I'll be like, well, I wish there was more to this. But at the same time, I know that I can go play it, and there's not temptation to go, look for external explanation of how a game works. The one and only time I tried WoW was the last week of Classic. All my friends begged me to install all kinds of plugins and shit, but I just immersed myself by reading quests and figuring out everything myself. Loved that part of the game, even though I disliked pretty much every other part of WoW. Yeah, the last time I played WoW, which was during Dragonflight, and before that it was 2004 at launch. So I played launch, Dragonflight, none. I turned off all the plugins and just did the quest line. I literally read every quest in every city, and I went from wherever the human alliance people start, the Goldshire, Goldwind, something like that, whatever. From there, and just followed the quest all the way through and read every single one of them and just did the whole story. Or for as long as I could, and then eventually I got tired of WoW, and so technically I didn't finish the story. Do we know what month's dev stream will be about? The tech that's putting pretty particles and stuff on the stream. God, I need to get some caffeine to wake up after even saying that. Yeah, the tech of the game is what the stream's about. If that's for you, man, have at it. Great, it's so great for you. I'm gonna sleep. Optimization, yeah. If it's about optimization, that'd be maybe more interesting than the way they described it, which was basically the tech of the game. I was just thinking that a harbor is just a POI and the city isn't necessarily right there. Maybe. That's not the way I understand it, but maybe. Lou Lloyd says progging is so much fun. It is fun. I miss progression rating. I wish there was an MMO that got me excited for progression rating that existed in 2024, but there's not. Yeah, that is the kind of pressure I want in a world like this. Yep. Pirate guilds or I quit. There will be pirate guilds. There absolutely will be pirate guilds. There's no question about it. There already are pirate guilds that are planned. Droog says, LOL, it's going to be so complex on how to get loot. I'm really hoping the BIS list chase isn't a thing and people realize they will only ever get one or two of their BIS items over a long period of time. Brother, preach. Like, so a good example is there are a couple of creators for Elder Scrolls Online, Alcast and Hack the Minotaur, and they make build guides for ESO. And what's really interesting is they'll have like 2 or 3 build guides for the same guide. So they'll be like, this is how to make a stamina Dragon Knight. And the abilities will all be the same because the abilities are relatively easy to get and level up. It's not a big deal. But the gear is hard because they have like kind of an RNG gear system. So you have to run the same dungeons over and over and over again, hoping that what exactly you need drops. And so it's like starting out, you want to use this 2 set bonuses. And then at the mid tier, as you start to get some of this stuff, you'll use this. And then the very best version of that is this down here. And I really think that you're right. Like, people are going to see these build guides, but they're only going to have access to a certain percentage of that. And so the best build guide people are going to be able to say, you want to use this sword, but if this sword's not available on your server, try this one or this one or this one, or this augment or whatever. If you don't have the availability of this augment because you're not high enough level in your religious node or whatever, use this one or this one. Then that's where the best stuff is going to come from. And so, yes, it's going to be less of a BIS chase as you described it. Being that guilds can be large, would you have different raid groups, each with their own Suicide Kings list? Yes, every raid group would have their own Suicide Kings list. Yes, and assuming that my guild is large and has lots of raiding going on, that is what will happen. Druk says note to self: avoid Zillion's videos. Yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of people who will, but I also know there's a lot of people who are just going to be like, I want to know how to do this without having to look it up myself. Vex says the things I don't like is when you have to look up a catalog of things outside of the game when it very well could have been a feature added in. I understand that sometimes. Sometimes there are things that the game just does not describe even remotely good enough. And it's like, you can go back later on and see where they like kind of hinted at it, and you're like, nobody was reading that, man. And if I was reading it, I wasn't reading it that close. Come on, man. So, yeah, I know what you mean. Lud says, early access means money, so every small developer without money goes for it. Yeah, don't get me wrong, and it's great. We wouldn't have amazing games like Ark if it weren't for early access. Valheim. Valheim is amazing. Incredible game. But without early access, it never exists. So I'm a fan of early access, but at the same time, there's a lot of Journey of Life and Valnir Rock and other bullshit that you paid $14 for that was glitchy and never finished. Bastards. The survival games have been especially bad with the early access. Enshrouded, V-Rising, Nightingale, No Rest, the list goes on. Well, see, I don't see any of those three as bad. Like, Enshrouded is getting better all the time. V-Rising is fucking awesome. It was good right off the bat. And then now it's really good. Nightingale was we'll see if they are able to improve it. I couldn't get into Nightingale even though I really wanted to. Gazera says, oh, excellent, I can skip this much step stream. I would watch it because you never know when they're going to drop some fat info on us, especially with Alpha 2 being right around the corner. But yeah, I'm not super excited. Lloyd is, though. He said, I'm a nerd, so I'm hyped. Any chance we see a big marketing push as we get past Alpha 2? Well, yeah. When we pass Alpha 2, we're months away from the game release. Probably less than 3 months when Alpha 2 is over. Yeah, the marketing's going to hit big time. Big time. The node can be more inland if the harbor is in its zone of influence. It belongs to that node. Monster Hunter is famous for that. I've said a lot of things since then, Mabari. I don't know what you're talking about them being famous for, other than having lots of different classes and the game being crazy hard. Mabari, Glitch-Near Rock. Yeah, that's what we called Valnir Rock, was Glitch-Near Rock, because that's bullshit. The game sucked, man. Ferocious Poo makes sense, but then would attacking the harbor be a war event or a siege event? That's a good question. I think that, we just don't know right now how the entire naval system. Like, the only thing I think we know for absolute sure is that the high seas are going to be an open PvP, no corruption, no man's land, kill each other for fun place. But other than that, we don't know shit, man. Oracle the White. Finally, someone sees it the way that I've been seeing it. People not considering your best in slot not being available to them. Yeah. I don't know about finally. I had videos talking about this all the way back in 2001. Pre-Alpha 1 days, I was talking about people not being able to get their best in slot stuff because of the way the node system is supposed to work. Now, let's be clear. And this is me kind of quoting Planendorf, who is directly an Intrepid at an Intrepid, a developer at Intrepid who is working on nodes, and he said if we can deliver on that promise. And so it's the same thing here. If they can deliver on the promise of the nodes and everything about the nodes, then yes, that whole thing of not being able to just access best in slot gear like that will become a thing. Varino with a first time chat. Thanks for stopping in and chatting, man. I appreciate it. I plan to play this game for the rest of my life. Do you think a older me can still be relevant in PvP by the time I'm 40s and 50s? Man, you touched on a subject that I was touching on a little earlier. I'm about to be 44. And I was telling people earlier, I noticed a decline in my reaction skills about 38, 39. I went back to SWTOR after I had taken a pretty good break. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I just don't respond to things as fast. I just don't. I wish I did, but I just don't. So that kind of sucked. However, we still did a lot of PvP, and I found that I had to change some things about the way that I approached the game, and I had to change some things about my UI, and put certain facets of the UI like more in my face so that I could see certain things that I would just naturally have seen before. But I was still effective. Now, are you going to dominate? Probably not, but maybe. I mean, there's that old grandpa that plays the shooter games that wrecks everybody's face, with the he don't do anything fast, but he still wrecks face. So, yeah. My guess is you won't be dominant, but you could always be relevant. I think you could be relevant until you're like pretty darn old. And then if nothing else, you can, pick the flowers, bro. Chop the trees and pick the flowers. There's never going to be an end to the need for new resources to maintain the node. Monster Hunter is famous for not explaining mechanics in the game. Okay, I didn't know that. Interesting. Abraham says, cannot wait to get in and begin learning the game. Even if they change a lot, there's still a trove of millions of lines of codes and years of intent and input to unravel. Yep, there's a lot of learning to do. That's why my guild for us is for Alpha 2. We don't have any specific goals. We're not like, we want to be in a economic node and we want to be a patron guild of that node, and like, I don't know. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna play the game and see what happens, and learn about the game, and then have a realistic plan and actually what's the word? A plan based on information that we actually have, an educated plan for what we're going to do at launch. Monster Hunter World gives you text dumps, not fun to read. Yeah. Planendorf been watching Twitch rather than working Intrepid, I feel, lately. Let's be clear, Planendorf watches Twitch streams at night and on the weekends. I've been streaming during the week, in the middle of the day, like right now, a lot, and Planendorf ain't never been in here. So Planendorf's working. Except for when Steven kicked him out of his office for that AMA. Then Planendorf didn't work. He stood in the corner. Droog says they need to deliver on nodes. It's really the core of everything else. And yes, I made a video on that exact topic. They cannot fail on nodes. The whole thing hinges on nodes. That's the foundation of the game. How is Gruntag with a first-time chat? There's no way. I feel like I've known you for 5 years. How is this your first time chatting in my Twitch? That don't make sense. I'll be 53 this year. Y'all are still young. Don't worry. I'm not saying I'm not young. I know that I'm young. I just know that the reaction skills ain't there. The speed just. And it's not a huge drop, but it's enough of a drop that I'm like, oh, I think I might have had a reaction speed advantage for a long time over other people my age, and now I'm like on their level, which is bullshit. I don't like being on their level. Part of his muscle memory and knowing the skill rotations, yeah, oh yeah. Pocket says, I should watch what I say. He probably here. Yeah, Planendorf's watching you, bro. And you lose some of that after some time away from it. Oh, yeah, no, I definitely noticed that immediately. Like, oh, crap, I forgot my rotations and that muscle memory isn't there. But I built that muscle memory back up and then still had the lower reactions afterwards. Oracle says, damn it, I just turned 38 this year. It's coming for you, bro. Let me tell you something. 3 things are coming for you. 1, reaction skills. The speed. The reaction speed is going to lower. 2, your eyes are going to start going a little bit, which is some bullshit. See these glasses? I ain't never had glasses or contacts and all that bullshit my whole life. And 3, three's a little gross, but there's a 3rd thing coming too that you'll be dealing with. Gruntex says, agree, reactions are lower than before. Yep, no doubt about it. You lose bowel control. Okay, it's not lose, Droog. It's just lessened. It's just not what it was. Better not drink coffee because reasons, exactly. Okay, I know for a fact there's no way that Grim Liberty has never chatted in my Twitch before. Why does it say first time chat? I think that starts over after a certain amount of time. That's got to be what it is. Grim Liberty says, I'm 60 in a month or so. I'm firmly middle-aged now. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, you are. But that's all right. Grim Liberty is one of the first people that ever commented on my YouTube channel. I have been reading Grim Liberty chats and having back and forth conversations with him on my YouTube channel for more than 4 years now. So shout out to you, man. Really appreciate all the support over the years. Drew says, with rotations and reactions, I find that in MMOs, if I spend time away from the game, it takes about a week to get back into the muscle memory. Just playing the game, doing anything else keeps it all there. In general, it doesn't take me long to get the muscle memory back. I still have really, really strong muscle memory. It's the reaction speed. Motherfucker's behind me. And I'm like, oh shit, how'd he get back there? He was in front of me 2 seconds ago, and now he's behind me, fucking stabbed me in the back. Vex says, by the way, I missed your last stream, but did you see my comment on YouTube about trying to handle server merges? I did. I did see your comment. From what I remember, I still think that just because you made some story reason for why I lost my server, it's still Intrepid taking my not my server, but my stuff away from me if we submerge servers. I think there are better solutions, and we've gone over some of those. Oracle says eyesight issues can be fixed with a bigger UI. I wish that was true, man. I wish that was true. You get to look forward to running for president in 30 years after you hit 40. That's true. That's true. You got to be at least 70 to run for president now. That's funny. Gruntag says V-Rising 1.0, Adam, Firstborn, and Dracula reminded me a bit of how reactions have slowed a bit. With that said, I was able to solo each of them. Yes, many attempts. So my crew started playing V-Rising. It was 4 of us on a server that I just had up on my computer. And I ended up dropping out because basically when Intrepid released the verbal NDA for those tests, the community just all came back, and I started watching what was going on, and I'm like, okay, we're finally here. It's finally time to return to making content. So I was like, hey, like, I'm going to back out and not play this with you guys, because I'll play it for hours and not make content. Wouldn't be streaming right now. I'd be playing V-Rising, right? But they got to Dracula, and I watched them do Dracula, and I noticed 2 things. 1, 2 out of 3 of my friends have slower reaction speed than me, even though I'm older than them. And two, even with me being what would have been second on the list for reaction speed, I don't think I would have had the reaction speed to kill Dracula. At least not without a lot of fucking tries. Like a lot of trees. That fight looks ridiculous. Of course, they were playing it with multiple people and it makes it harder. But yeah. Abraham says, never trust a fart and never waste an erection. It's true. It's true. Grim says, yeah, I've been around. Glad to see you going strong. Yeah, man, we're back at it, Mr. Grim Liberty. We are back at it. It has taken a few years for Intrepid to cook. There is no scenario on Earth that I would have predicted that it was going to take Intrepid 3 years between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. No way. But that's what's happened. So that's fine. But we're back. We're back. I got some videos in the production pipeline. I'm gonna start releasing. I don't think I'm gonna do every single day like I was doing in the pre-Alpha 1 lead up because that was insane. But a few times a week probably. And then the streaming we're doing now. My plan is basically to stream Sunday and Monday nights, and then Wednesday and Thursday afternoon, like right now. So you guys mark your calendars for stream content. Keep upgrading monitor size. Vex says, well, it was more so to let people know a server is low population and incentivizing others to join it to help maintain it so it wouldn't need to merge in the first place. Yeah, I just don't see anybody... I don't see anybody leaving the characters that they've spent time developing and the nodes that they've spent time developing and becoming, the communities that they're in and all that stuff to go join a different random server. I don't see that. Maybe. I don't see it. I don't see it. Grim Liberty says you could always try Neuralink to improve reaction times. Woo, man. That depends on if Neuralink is a valve or a tube. The question about whether or not Neuralink is going to be a valve or a tube is an extremely, extremely important question and will determine everything about if I even have any possibility whatsoever of allowing that to be implanted in my brain. Lud says reaction speeds also come down to physical form. You know what they do? But I'm not noticing that as much. I feel like from a physical standpoint, my reactions are still really good. It seems like it's the noticing things. I don't notice it as fast. Like I coach youth flag football, and I noticed that I used to be able to watch a play, and I could tell you kind of like where everybody went and what type of defense the opposing team is playing, and so what type of play we could use to expose that particular defense. And now I need like 5 or 6 plays of watching before I go, oh, I see what they're doing now. Okay, now I know what play we can run. So it's just a little slower. Alpha 2 to Beta 1, 4 years. I don't think so. I've explained my tinfoil hat theory a few different times in a few different places, but I guess I'll do that now. So here's my tinfoil hat. Around August to October of 2022. So we're going all the way back to August of 2022. Intrepid was having banger stream after banger stream after banger stream. All of it was fantastic. Like they were great streams. And they were building towards something. And it was obvious that they were in a ramping period. They were like ramping hype, getting everybody excited. And then Vacnar made that infamous post that he put on the Discord where he laid out what was coming in the next 3 live streams. And it was like October was like the Ranger reveal, and November was melee combat or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they were like big time topics, like big stuff. And then for December, he put December ... things with the big looking eyes, like, ooh, big things are coming. Indicating that big things are coming. Like, you don't do that. That's hype building. And then when the December stream got here, December 2022, was that now very infamous stream where they just sat around the offices and interviewed the different developers and talked about their experiences developing stuff for the game, which was like as anticlimactic as you can possibly be. Like, I mean, I guess you could have just not had a stream, or you could have had a freaking tech stream. I guess that would have been more anticlimactic. So what happened? What happened that they were like ramping hype? Hype was going through the roof. They were indicating that something was going to happen in December. There was rumors coming from everywhere that Alpha 2 was going to be in March of 2023. And then it just died with that December live stream. Well, during that August to October time period that I mentioned before, there was a topic that was going on in the community. A lot of people were talking about how long Alpha 2 could be and the game still be successful. And a lot of people were saying it cannot be a 3-year Alpha 2. Everybody will have watched the entire game. Everything you can do, all the raids, all the dungeons, all the class combinations, all the augments. Everybody will have watched everything there is to watch in 3 years. So when the game launches, they'd be like, why play it? I've seen what it is. And there was a lot on the forums, on the Reddit, on the MMORPG Reddit. Content creators were talking about it. It was a huge topic at the time. And I wonder, I theorize, I speculate that they sat down in a meeting and had that discussion with themselves. How quickly, how long could it be? How long could Alpha 2 be? And they decided, look, it would be less damaging for our game now if we throw the brakes on, do some bullshit, boring stream in December. Don't mention any of the hype that we've clearly been building. Just let it all die. Go into hibernation and do another 1.5 years of development now, so that when we release Alpha 2, we are 1.5 years from Beta 1, or 1.5 years from release potentially, instead of 3 years from Beta 1 or from release. That's my tinfoil hat. So I am hoping, very much hoping, not because I want the game to release any sooner, but because I don't want to see all the hype of this game just be completely destroyed by the fact that there have been streamers streaming this game 24/7 for 3 years when we release it, because the hype's going to die. So there you go. That's my speculation. Grim says, we don't need any SAO experiences. I don't know. Hold on. That's an anime. Sword Art Online? Is that what that is? I think I've heard of that, but I don't know what that is. Oracle says, if it's an option, does any healer put the party list on the right when the mouse is on the right? If it is an option, does any healer put the party list on the right when the mouse is on the right? Oracle, can you explain that? I'm not sure I understand what that means. The difference between playing soccer when younger and playing soccer when older is you use your mind more because your body can't do it. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Triple A says, got a jet? See you in your next stream tomorrow. Yes, sir. I'll be live somewhere around 1 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow. Thanks for stopping in. Triple Play. Lloyd says, yeah, I once stopped playing semi-pro. I went from taking one-on-ones and doing give and goes to making better passes. Yeah. This game is not released. This game not releasing is going on Half-Life at the moment. I hope they don't miss a release window. Yeah, to me,
Ready to serve, my lord.
Heat Crusher. Thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate it. To me, there is no such thing as a release window. When the fucking game is done, you release it. And you don't care if World of Warcraft or Quinn Falls coming out on the same day. Fuck all that. There are going to be MMOs releasing and expansions to MMO releasing year-round, every year, into perpetuity. There's never a release window. You release your game and you make sure your game is so fucking good nobody else wants to play the other crap, and that's what you do. Fuck a release window. That's where I go. I still haven't seen news on the standalone character creator coming to everyone yet. That'll be before the A2 date. It's been said twice by Steven. Yes, we've been speculating on the character creator. Apparently, Phoenix Initiative PI, they were told to basically not to use it, to pick between a certain number of races, and then just use whatever comes up, because people are spending too long creating characters in the character creator. So it exists. Apparently it's pretty good. People are spending a lot of time on it. We don't have it yet. It's bullshit. I was getting burned out by the end of Alpha 1. With that said, there will be much less content / more of a back-end test, or that was. Yeah, the Alpha 2 will be. I do hope Alpha 2 will be less than 2 years. Yeah. I think as soon as you start creeping over the 2-year period, you're running into a problem. And a year and a half would be better. Lou Lloyd, good job. Oracle the White, you got it. I guess you're talking about Sword Art Online. Not old enough. Memory works. My typing doesn't, though. Yeah. Vex says, I still think people will want to play it, even if A2 is long. There are a lot of factors that would still bring people in. I'm not saying that nobody would want to play it. I'm just saying that the big hype, like part of the hype of a MMO is like this new world to explore. People have even talked about it in this stream. Like people have chatted talking about how they want the freshness of a new world. And people talk about that all the time. A new game to explore, all kinds of new systems to explore, all that stuff. And if content creators have been making content, if there's 318 zillion videos on YouTube describing all the best ways to level and the best ways to make money and the best ways to make a fighter and a cleric and a mage and blah, 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 blah. Like, you've seen it all. You've experienced it all vicariously, but you've experienced it all. So less people would come. So that's, I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it. I don't think they will release it for everyone until close to launch. My guess is it will be released for A2 participants at the moment. That's not what they said. Just to be clear, they said they were going to release the character creator before Alpha 2, not to the Alpha 2 people. It's interesting. Do they consider that releasing it if they give it to the Alpha 2 people? That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, Sword Art Online, bunch of neutrals got trapped in the game, died if disconnected, or died in game. Oh, yeah. See, it's a 2. We don't want it to be a 2. We want it to be a Valve. If you're talking about raid frames, mine are always on the right, and yes, I have my mouse on the right side, but that is a strange question. You mean the mouse on the right side of your hand? Like, are you suggesting that people who are right-handed should have their raid frames be on their right? The people who are left-handed should have their raid frames be on the left? Is that what you're getting? I'm so confused. Chibi said a lot of it was locked out too, talking about the character creator. So yeah, we're not ready yet. As you said, Valve versus Pipe issue. Yes, that's a very, very important issue. And then of course there's the issue of, even if they tell us it's a Valve, how do you know? How do you know that for sure? Mabari said, telling me not to spend too much time on the character creator hurts me. Hold on. They were trying to test. They got together all the testers and said, hey, everybody be here at 1 o'clock. We're going to test till 4. They had all this stuff planned to do between 1 and 4, and people at 1:45 were still fucking making their characters. So they were like, stop it. Stop with the bullshit. Pick one of these 3 races and use whatever it shows up. My hype is I've always wanted to test a game. I paid my fucking money. I'm going to test the shit out of Ashes. Yes. Yes. I will be here for all of the tests. The spot testing that we'll get supposedly, allegedly sometime soon. Hey, do y'all remember? Do y'all remember in November of 2002 when Steven said that Alpha 1 testers were going to start spot testing in the coming months? Because Pepperidge Farm remembers. I remember in November of 2022. I guess technically, whenever they do let us in, that will be the coming months from then, but whatever. That's like saying I've been consistent on YouTube because I post a video every 3 months. How much of Vera will be accessible in A2? Will everything be able to be shown off by the end of it? We don't know the answer to that. And that is a very good question. I suspect Alpha 2 is going to get added to the Alpha 2 Island or whatever is going to get added to as they add biomes for people to play in and test the biomes. But the reality is UE5 might be different. I'm going to say this. UE5 might be different. So maybe this isn't as much of an issue as it has been in previous versions of the game or versions of Unreal Engine. But from my experience, you would want to have the real world that people are going to be playing on, the entirety of it, and you want people to crawl all over every single fucking square centimeter of the entire map and report all the seams in the world and all the bullshit where you fall through the world, all that stuff. Maybe UE5 is different. So to me, testing absolutely has to include the whole world. That's why I got an alpha key. I didn't want my first view of Ashes to be my own and not a streamer doing streamer stuff for views. I'll watch plenty of that, but I want my own experience. Yep. A huge thing that has helped me is something I post in the forums. I really want a heads-up display to put as much of my info in the middle of the screen around my character. Google IceHUD WoW, and you'll see what I want. That's what I had to do in SWTOR. And the way they've made it sound like the UI is going to be infinitely customizable, you'll be able to put that information in the middle right around your character. I know that I am guilty of staring at the hotbar. If I don't get the hotbar up near my character, I'll just stare at the fucking hotbar and miss out on all the buffs and debuffs and everything that's going on. Mark said raid frames on the right. Get out. Lloyd says, yeah, the character creator was locked either way because not ready or hiding it. Yeah, I don't know. Look, if I want my toon to look like Samuel L. Jackson in orc mode, I will. Hey, get after it. It's going to be possible with this character creator. First time chat from TLDR. LOL. What hair product do you use? I use a product called Got to Be Glued. Used to be, came in a yellow container, and it literally felt like Elmer's glue. Like it was glue. And it got in your hair, and I mean, yeah, it holds your hair, because normal hair gel does not hold my hair. My hair just falls right back down with hair gel. I used that glue stuff for a long time, and then they introduced a gel version of it that comes in a black container instead of a yellow container. You can still get the yellow container, I just don't suggest it. The gel holds just as good, and when you put a little water in it, it just comes right out. It's no big deal. Whereas the glue, I had to like pull it out of my hair, and so I didn't do my hair nearly as often back then. So yeah, Got to Be Glued. Skip Nog says, I remember when we were going to be in the coming months during that obvious hype ramping phase that just disappeared out of nowhere. I was there. Steven has a different view of time. I mean, I guess I guess you can make that argument that Steven has a different view of time. I like that. Hadn't thought about that. But I still say that Intrepid was in an obvious hyping. Like now, right now, he's now starting to do AMAs and interviews and shit. He was doing them back then. That's when he said that was during an AMA. They were in a very obvious hype ramping phase, just like right before Alpha 1 launched. He started doing interviews and shit. And then he started doing them in November of 2022 or around that range, and then it just died for a year and a half, and now it's back again. So I'm telling y'all, whether it was because of the length of Alpha 2 or they ran into some major problem and said, we don't know how long this is going to take, like, let's put the brakes down. Something happened around November of 2022 that caused a major delay into Alpha 2. I'm convinced of it. He is a Time Lord. How much of the Artisan system do you think will be available by A2 launch? Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, they showed us enough of the, was it weaponsmithing system to make me think that weaponsmithing is probably mostly in. But we don't know about any, that's funny. They showed us crafting. See, that's how sneaky Intrepid is. Boy, they can be sneaky sometimes. They showed us crafting, but they really only showed us weaponsmithing. And I guess the processing that's associated with weaponsmithing, so like smelting or whatever. We don't know about scribing or alchemy, armor smithing, carpentry. Like, we know nothing or very little about any of that. All I'll say is I hope that the entire crafting system is in, but I have no way to speculate. We don't know. That's crazy. You bring up it just hit me like a ton of bricks. We don't fucking know. Let's see. Oracle says, thank you. This is what I was trying to say, but my brain is slow. To pocket. If you're talking about raid frames, mine are always on the right, and I have my mouse on the right side, so that is a strange... I still don't understand what that means. What does my mouse on the right mean? Do you mean the physical mouse or the mouse cursor? And what does it matter if your mouse cursor is on the left side or the right side? Y'all are stressing me out. Like, what does this have to do with anything? I need you to explain better, Oracle. Can people steal stuff from your farm? I do not believe so. I don't think so. I don't know. I think that they can steal stuff from your from your farm by invading your farm as a part of a node siege. So in that way they can, but I don't think that people can just walk up into your farm and take your stuff. I'm pretty darn sure about that. Didn't the new Unreal Engine come out? I bet that threw some wrenches in the system. That did, but that was 2021 that they were announcing that they had switched over to Unreal Engine 5. So that was way, way back. The Christmas following Alpha 2 is when they announced the Unreal Engine 5. Lloyd says we don't know shit. And that's about most of the stuff. That's correct. Like, one of the things I'm really curious about, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So at some point they're going to have to do an Alpha 2 date announcement, right? It's probably going to be at the end of July. That's my guess. But at some point they're going to have to do one. And when they do one, are they going to give us an overview of everything that's going to be in Alpha 2? Or are they just going to be like, September 78th, we promise you quarter 3, and that's still technically quarter 3. Like, what are we looking at here? So almost all games put their initial raid frames and party frames on the upper left side of the screen, and Ashes has this. I like to have it closer to my character and not in the upper left-hand character. I totally get moving the raid frame around based on like personal preference. What I don't get is what it has to do with the location of the mouse. He kept saying with the mouse being on the right side. I'm so confused by that. That part, I'm just like, I don't understand. Alpha 2 combat pets? I don't think so. I don't think so. If they steal from my farm, they get farmed. Ain't that right? Ain't that right? We're gonna farm them for a while. And then Lud said what I said. If the siege is successful, they can pillage, but not outside of that. Right. Right. That's exactly correct. So having a freehold is going to be extremely important in this game. And it is a limited resource. The friction that's going to exist over freeholds, it's going to create so much drama. We were talking on stream about this the other night. The drama, like I'm here for the gameplay, and I can't wait to play the game, but I'm ready for the drama that's going to unfold. Guilds cracking and fracturing and breaking apart, getting pissed off over node locations and types and gear drops and who has access to the freehold and blah. Oh my god, it's going to be so good. People infiltrating guilds and cracking them from the inside and shit. It's going to be great. Grim Liberty says they had to make new tools in 22-23. I remember them talking about that. I do remember them talking about that. Sedora, who I haven't seen in quite a while. How you doing, Sedora? Welcome back in. There's so much we haven't seen yet.
Ready to
They
serve,
say,
my lord.
Skinny Bruce. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it, man. Welcome to the Zillagers. Sedora says, there's so much we haven't seen yet. They say A2 Q3 this year, but I haven't heard what to expect to be ready for an A2 launch. Or more accurately, what they hope to have ready for A2. Yes. I mean, they have kind of given us a brief overview. Like, we know what archetypes are going to be there and which ones aren't. And we know what map there's going to be. We know what level we're going to be able to go to at the start. I think that's it, though. I think that's pretty much... We know there's not going to be augments to start. We know there's not going to be secondary archetypes to start. We know we won't have the summoner or rogue. There are certain things we know. Okay, so Oracle the White says, the physical mouse. I don't know why, but I have problems watching the top left corner, so I'll move things to the right. Okay, okay, fine. That makes sense. I don't understand, like I don't get why that this is easier than this. But yeah, if that helps you, if that's what you need to do to like make it work for you, yeah, put it on the right side. But that's wild to even think about that the physical location of your mouse will dictate where you'd put your raid frames. I like it. I like it. Grim says, it was mentioned in one sentence in the February stream, basically glossed over. Shouldn't have said that type of thing, Margaret glared. Are you talking about the tools? Is that what you're talking about, Grim? For how big this game is, we know nothing. We know very little. We know very little. Which is one of the reasons why I think they have a lot more than we know about. It's like they've been developing for a long time with a really big team now. For quite some time. Like, it's not the same thing as it was in 2021 when we're like, they really just now started development like 38 seconds ago. Now it's been 150 or more people developing hardcore nonstop on this game for years now. So I think they're probably much further along than we think they are. Combat pets never. Hopefully, I hate the idea. I do too. I'm just not. I don't like pets in games. I just don't. Unless it's like they claim the summoner is going to be, where you're playing vicariously through your pet. That's fine. But just having a pet over, I've never been a fan of pet classes. Rain Down. That would be a good question for the tech stream. How much of the Unreal Engine is used compared to how much they have adapted to their needs? It's a good question. I don't know that they can answer that, but that's a good question. Oracle White says, I need to watch both my hand and what I do on screen. You watch your hand while you play video games, Oracle? Please tell me I read that wrong. It's weird even for me, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm alone in this. Bro, I've never heard of anybody needing to see their hand while they... People's brains are different, man. No, I'm not trying to hate. I'm just blown away. I've never heard of that before. I intend to be a master process, and I will get a freehold. If I lose it too frequently, I'll just plan to hard swap and go another direction. If my customers don't want me to process, then I'll find another avenue. Okay, interesting. So you're going to go for the hardcore part of the gameplay. That freehold gameplay is going to be not for the faint of heart, I think. Grim Liberty says, side note, I love that they bought EQ Landmark voxel system for Enshrouded. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I liked Enshrouded. I think it needs more, but the bones are there for a good one. Zebra Dom says, Steven's quote from the live stream, PvE creates the world, PvP breaks it back down. I thought it was a great one. Yes. One of the videos that I'm working on right now, and more than likely will be the first one that comes out, is about PvE versus PvP versus PvX. And I include that quote as part of it. It is a very important part of the game. I wonder how well that goes in line with the idea of PvX being blended, when you're not really blending. That's two very different sides of the game. But yes, that's exactly how it should be, and I'm excited to actually do it in game. We don't know how many nodes will be available either. We do not. We do not. It'll probably be more than was in Alpha 1. That'd be my only guess. Friction drama is a core design of the philosophy. This game leans into player friction. Gonna be awesome. Yes. Everything. I've noticed that everything about this game is just, let's find a way to create friction between players. That's it. That's the whole game. Just find ways to make players fucking hate each other. That's all we're trying to do around here. That's funny. Glad I'm not the only one in disliking combat pets. Yeah, that's pretty popular. I think most people are not real big fans of the combat pets. When will you update your avatar picture of you 20 years ago? That really is 20 years old. God, I didn't even think. No. Hey, leave me alone, Penumbra. Take a screenshot right now and send it to me, and I'll change it to that. I think they should move combat pets to summoner secondary. It's not a bad idea, except for you're not supposed to get new abilities for your secondary unless you tack it on to abilities that already exist. And then the combat pets were temporary. You use Blitz, and it creates an eagle that swoops down and scratches the eyes out and blinds the guy that you used Blitz on, or some shit like that. So the pet just it's just in. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of pets. How did you stand SWTOR if you dislike pets? TLDR LOL, let me tell you. I pretty much only raided in that game. There was no pets. Yes, I know that you had the guy and he would follow you around when you were doing dailies or whatever. And I set him on healing. I had top level gear and I knew the rotations inside out and backwards. My characters were strong. I could do all of the dailies with my eyes closed, with no partner, with no pet. I rarely even had my companion out. Every once in a while, I'd be like, oh shit, that's right, I have a companion, and I'd pull it out. Yeah, so that's how. Pets for aesthetics are fine, but having to maintain something to stay competitive viable is just bleh. Agreed. I don't want to have to manage a pet. I just don't. Maybe if the pet has you have no control over the pet. It's just there and it attacks shit that you attack. Okay, great. Whatever. Still not a fan, but that's better. I am okay with a pet for picking up my loot. Oh, that's some pay for convenience fucking ESO bullshit. What you got to do is you get you a friend that's a little bitch, and you make him pick up all the loot. The loot bitch, if you will. Penumbral says, I'll probably get a free hold just to sell it to the highest bidder when they're all taken. I mean, not a bad idea. Of course, then you can't process. But if you have a guild that does, then... Hand-eye coordination in quotations, yeah. Yeah, I need Oracle to explain to me what watching your hand has to do with... That's still just... That, like, I'm as blown away by that as I am the first time I heard about people who don't have an internal monologue, like or internal dialogue, either one. Like, what? I still don't understand. Pocket says, careful with that, Zillin. My recent post in forums has PvPers hating me and PvEers hating me because no one understands I'm a PvX advocate. Yep. Oh, I'm sure it'll piss off everybody. Pocket, it won't be the first video that I ever released that pissed off everyone. It's not my first rodeo. We had like 11 nodes in A1, right? Would be interested if the Sand Squall Desert was part of A2. I am very curious how much of that desert is going to be part of A2, because what they showed in the Midnight Magic part of the Sand Squall Desert looked, I'm going to say half baked. We're just going to say half baked and move on. Lud says, I love combat pets. I need my Fenrir for my Dunir. There you go. That's cool. I like that. It's a good concept. Grim Liberty says, I am a combat whatever gets in my way type of player. To me, that's a simpler way of explaining it. I am a combat whatever gets in my way type of player. Okay. With AI these days, if integrated properly, could be decent. I mean, new WoW thing has AI group members, right? I don't know. I don't play WoW. I have no idea what you're talking about. Local the White says, Lulu, what if you got Fenrir as a summoner? I'm a tank, not a summoner. There you go. Tank life. We're all about that tank life in here. Abraham says, combat pets, embrace the chaos, full aggression, and damn the consequences. I mean, like the first thing, okay, let's combat pet here for a second. The first thing is positioning of the combat pet, where it is on the game world. So let's say I'm a mage, and I'm using I stand there with my arms wide open while fucking icicles fall in a big circle. As a player, there's only two ways it could go, and no matter which of those two ways it is, if I was either one of those two players, I'd be pissed off. So the player that's fighting the mage or the mage himself. If I'm the player that's fighting the mage, I now have to like click a move button on my pet and tell it to move outside of the cone, or me move outside of the cone, and make sure that it follow me, or put it on passive while I'm running outside of the cone so that it does follow me instead of attacking the mage, which is just bullshit and sucks, and it's micromanaging of a pet, and I just want like nothing to do. I want nothing to do with micromanaging a pet, like nothing. The other side of that is I'm the mage. I've dropped down an AoE on two things that are attacking me, and the developers, because they wanted to have combat pets in the game, but they didn't want to have micromanaging of pets in the game, make it where AoE effects don't hurt the dog. So now that I have something that's attacking me, but the attack that I dropped literally on top of its fucking head isn't hurting it. Only attacks that go directly to the dog hurt it. So that's I don't like it. I don't fucking like it. So I don't know. Maybe they come up with a system that's better than that. Maybe it seemed like this would be more advanced than we are now. But maybe they could have an AI pet that got out of the way of circles, for lack of a better word, automatically. And if you do that, okay, maybe. If I don't have to micromanage the pet, and I can drop AoEs on the pet and it still hurt both the pet owner and the pet, both of those things at the same time, I'm fine with it. That's where I stand. Oracle says, you will have to wait for it. I'm still trying to understand it after 20 years. Hey, brother, whatever it takes for you to be able to play, I just want to see you in game. I just want to be able to play with you. So, if you got to look at your mouse, man, look at your mouse. You understand that the cursor on the screen is like a physical representation of what you're doing with your hand, right? I don't mean that condescending. I'm being silly, but like. Grim says at Zero Nom, yes, they went the full let's have everyone play solo in an MMO route. I'd be totally fine with a stay here, go to where I point, follow me commands. With a follow me command, does it follow you regardless of if you're in combat with something? If you've engaged in combat with something, and you're attacking it, and your pet is attacking it, and you run away from the thing, do you want your pet to just follow you and run away while you run away? Because in a scenario where you're being attacked by an AoE, that makes sense. But in different scenarios, it might not make sense. You may want your pet to tank one thing while you go attack a different thing. So that's where that gets. I don't understand. Why says I don't want to micromanage a pet? Yes. Combat pets get a fraction of our own power. None of y'all need to manage a pet. Oh yeah, isn't there some system where like when you spawn the combat pet, it gets a fraction of your power, so you can choose to have a pet or not and be at the same power? Do I got that right? Man, it's been so long since I've looked into combat pets. Yeah, I know, right? I'm saying with AI as it is, combat pets run by AI could be decent. And it could be. I'd like to see that. I wonder how taxing that would be on the servers. To have 10,000 players running around with combat pets that all need AI to determine what to do. Jana XOG says, stepped away for a minute. What's the topic of discussion at the moment? Combat pets and how they're going to work in Ashes of Creation. If they're good, if they're bad. They're bad. Yeah, that's the topic. Abraham says, not for raiding, for PvP. Combat pets are a combat force multiplier. It's an additional input of damage independent of what you do. I am thinking AI. Yeah, if they were AI controlled and I don't have to micromanage them, I'm gonna tell you about the first thing that comes to my mind is people bitching that their combat pet AI was better than my combat pet AI, and that's why I lost the duel, or that's why I lost the fight, or whatever. That's what's going through my head right now. Or people figuring out that the AI of this combat pet does this one thing a little bit better, and so that combat pet becomes the meta, so then everybody's using the same fucking combat pet. That's the kind of shit that comes to my mind when I start thinking about AI-controlled combat pet. Oh, God. Let's see what else we got here today. My actual hope is for AI NPCs will be as good or better than players, then PvP won't be a thing anymore. You want AI to be so good that it makes NPCs as good as human players to eliminate PvP entirely. There's a part of me that sees the arguments you're making, and there's also a part of me that's like, but what, fuck the PvPers? or it will become just the game. So what you're saying is that you won't know if you're fighting an NPC or a PC because they're all as the NPCs mimic the PCs. So you're just playing the game. Okay, I'm smelling what you're stepping in. That's interesting, Grim. That's a really interesting concept. I had not really thought about it from that perspective. That AI could change the very nature of PvP/PvE/PvEx. Interesting. I may have to talk a little bit about that in my upcoming video. You may have just added to my script, Grim. You just took a 12-minute video, made an 18-minute video. Good fucking job. Can I have a hot pirate chick with a slave collar as a pet? Depends on how much you pay her. Basically, they were saying that they would balance players with combat pets, and it seemed really difficult. I think it'd be too much of a hassle. That does seem weird. Like, I think I get it. Like, you want to not force the people who don't want to micromanage pets to have to learn how to do it in order to be meta, be as powerful as the next guy. I guess I get it. As I see it, if you have 100 ATK on your own, the attack. With a pet, it might be 80-20. So if you get stunned, the pet can keep doing the 20 attack to your enemy in the meantime, something like this. Yeah, I mean, there's always a benefit to having multiple people. It's better to have 2 guys doing 50 attack than 1 guy doing 100 attack. No doubt about it. Having a system do the same balance as not having one just seems like why? So that people can have combat pets. Especially because the summoner class is not really going to be combat pets. It's very different. So. They're called Discord e-kittens. No brothels and ashes. MF Crackers, you are incorrect, sir. Number 1, Annie Lace of the Tangents of Creation podcast is absolutely going to run a brothel. And number 2, and this is far more important, there is nothing that a developer could do to stop degenerate fucking video gamers from making brothels in an MMO. There have been brothels in every MMO that's ever existed, and Ashes of Creation will be no different. What if combat pets are 10% of your combat power? Well, they're saying it's 20%. Or I guess they didn't say. We don't actually know what the number is. Grim, I'm dissing you because you're a degenerate. We're all degenerates around here. ERP is going to happen. Good luck. Yep. If Rangers have pets, give them generic AI. Summoner should have to control their pets. We have already confirmed earlier, summoners will have to control their pets. You basically play your pet through your hotbar. You're going to pick your pet's skills and target them and all that stuff. So, yeah. Lud says it can be 90-10. They can balance it however they want as long as I get my pet. Wait, so you're saying Annie is a degenerate? She plays MMOs, doesn't she? Aren't we all degenerates around here? Did I miss a meeting or something? I thought we were all degenerates and we knew it. Is that not what's happening? Bro, we follow a game that doesn't exist. We're degen. Yes. Like, just imagine. And as a streamer, I shouldn't even say this. Imagine what all of us here that have been here for nearly 3 hours together could have done in the last 3 hours if it were not for us having a conversation about a game that doesn't fucking exist. Technically, I'm working. Technically, schmechnically. Nah, son, you watching a stream. Oh, that's funny. You guys are crazy. And he is definitely a degen coming from Jen. Yep, yep. I do want to, just in case anyone was not here earlier and missed the important announcement, we all know that we hate the name Tank for the Tank class or the Tank archetype in Ashes of Creation. It just doesn't make any sense. And Jamie Chaos is starting a petition. He's going to petition Intrepid to change the name Tank to Vanguard. He loves the name Vanguard. He thinks it's great. And so what I need for all of you to do is message Jamie. Just send him a quick message and let him know on Discord and let him know that you want to put your name on the list to change the name Tank to Vanguard and Ashes of Creation. He'll know exactly what you're talking about and he'll get you taken care of. So make sure you guys go do that. Speak for yourself as a healer advocate. I want to keep Tank. Y'all like Tank, really? They should be renamed to Attention Horror. 100% accurate. I'm fine with Tank as an archetype name. There will be no one with that class running past level 25. Penumbral Tank is stupid as fuck. I think it's stupid. Like, while TLDR makes a great point. Like, yes, past 25, there's not going to be any. All the other classes have lore accurate names. Like, yeah, it's dumb. It's so dumb. It's so dumb that they named it Tank, and it's even dumber that they have just dug their heels in the ground. I've been like, no. Every time it gets brought out, Steven's just like, hey, how about fuck y'all? It's like, come on, man. Yeah, so y'all make sure you message Jamie and tell him you want to put your name on the list. A Vanguard is a group of people, though. A group of people leading the way in a new development or ideas. The experimental modern spirit of the modernist Vanguard. But wait, Abraham says, I like Tank, gets rid of the ambiguity on who gets what role. Same with Cleric. Yeah, but Cleric is a name of an actual healing class, healing archetype in the world. Tank is not. Tank is a modern battlefield weapon. And Tank doesn't even make sense in the context of what tanks do in MMOs, because tanks in MMOs are heavily armored and hit like a fucking wet noodle. But tanks in a battlefield are heavily armored and will blow you the fuck up. They got a gigantic gun on the front of the goddamn thing. Tank is stupid in the context of MMOs. It's even stupider in the context of Ashes of Creation. May the Sandal Lord prevail. That's so funny, man. The forefront in any movement, field activity, or the like, the leaders, any intellectual or political movement. There are 8 different tank classes, it's fine. I voted Vanguard, but I honestly don't care as long as it's not Tank. Yeah, Tank is so 2000s. Yeah. I agree completely. Triple Play says, after a successful field demonstration in 1915, Britain established a secret, quote, landship committee to study the military prospects of the vehicle. At first seemed more like a warship than a land weapon, hence the name landship. The initiative was codenamed the Tank because the hull resembled that of a water carrier. Blue Lloyd says, I'd settle for Vanguardian. Sure, I mean, listen. This isn't so much about whether the actual name in Ashes of Creation should be Tank or Vanguard or Guardian or Vanguardian. What it's really about is all of you bombarding Jamie's Discord DMs with the message that you want to change it to Vanguard and you want to get put on his list. That's what's important here. Okay? If the game ends up being it being called Tank, that's fine. I mean, it sucks, but as was pointed out earlier, past level 25, there's going to be no tanks. they'll all be something else. So it's fine. But messaging Jamie and like, can you imagine the epic video or stream segment that is going to come from this if you guys all message Jamie? It's not hard. You just go to Ashes of Creation Discord, in the search thing, type in Jamie, his name will pop up, right click, choose message, send him a message. Let him know. It's very important. It's very important. Zillion farming content for Jamie. Drew, before I get out of here, I need to know your opinion on the name Tank in Ashes of Creation. Is it fine just the way it is? Should we change it? And if we should change it, what should we change it to? I love Vanguard. I was a Vanguard in SWTOR, so that makes even more sense. I would love the name Vanguard. Penumbral thinks that it's Guardian, and everyone is entitled to their wrong opinions, including him, so that's fine. Oh, I can get behind message spam. Flirting or not flirting, asking because we're degenerates. Drew says Tank is booty, of course. Okay, Drew, I have a different question. Why do you think that Steven has just like drawn it like this is the hill that Steven has decided to die on? Tell me why. I need your opinion on why. Triple Play Knight is one of the is one of the names of one of the other. I think Tank Fighter is Knight. Abraham, you can do it as flirty or as not flirty as you want to. As long as you message and let him know that you want to be put on the list for the petition to change the tank name to Vanguard and Ashes of Creation. If Steven says, fuck y'all, I want Tank, I'd be like, respect. I mean, yeah. Drew says, I think if they stick with Tank, they have to change Cleric to Healer. And then they have to change Rogue to Pokey DPS. And they have to change Fighter to big hulking DPS. And Ranger to ranged DPS. And Mage to Abracadabra DPS. Mage to Glass Cannon, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's just... It just doesn't... All the rest of them are actual names, and this is a descriptive word. Like, in a stupid, outdated descriptive word that should have never been used to fucking name that role in the first place. Ranger to Pew Pew. Fighter to melee DPS. Burst melee DPS. Honestly, cannot even come up with a clever answer as to why he's dying on this hill. It's so weird. Yep. Abraham said this is going to get real weird, but okay, you okayed it. Half the class names suck too. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are... Night Shield for a rogue, tank rogue is like... Like there's some in there, but it's all the in there is way better than Tank. Ranger to Pew Pew DPS. Some are a little edgelordy, yes. But, I mean, let's be fair. He had to come up with 64 names. He had to come up with 64 names, and 63 of them he did a good enough job, a passable job. Some of them were incredible, and then some of them were pretty good, and then you got the it's KAOS. He might be Chaos like that in there. I don't remember. I'm looking now. No, it's KAOS. I think most people aren't going to use the names anyways. They will just identify as Rogue Ranger. You know, Jugs, I have been wondering exactly that. Like, how are you going to advertise yourself? Or will the builds and the build diversity and just how wild like the huge numbers of builds that we're going to have in this game be so diverse and so many of them that you just won't even matter. You'll just advertise as DPS. I'm going to be a DPS, maybe ranged or melee DPS, but that would be it, because my fighter tank may be wildly different from your fighter tank depending on what I have access to and what you have access to and what type of build I want to make and all that. If there's going to be 32 augments per ability, at least 32 augments per ability. Pernumble says, I have changed the archetype tank into Guardian, so my base classes are Fighter, Guardian, Rogue, Ranger, Mage, Summoner, Cleric, Bard. My class list is then as follows. Oh my god, I'm not reading all that. That's insane. TLDR. Grim letter. Grim, see you, buddy. Yeah, hey, man. Yeah, I was about to get out of here, so thanks for stopping in, Grim. I appreciate it, man. CYA, cover your ass. Is that what you mean? Don't read it. I see. And the TLDR says what? I see what just happened there. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here, guys. I've been doing this for 3 hours. It's been a blast hanging out with you guys. Sunday and Monday nights about 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. Wednesday and Thursday, 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. I am going to be streaming, and I have new videos coming out. So if you're not following me over on YouTube, go do that. It's just Zillin on YouTube. And I really appreciate all your time. Gruntag, thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate it. And I will see you guys here coming up tomorrow about 1 o'clock. Bye, y'all.